seeking power over those that oppose me. Unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me. Cries of my ancestors said, go away. My operation, fasting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal hide inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, in innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit inhabiting, evil enveloping, the dancing graves in the night, the spirit occupying and transforming, stolen hides, dark practices, my secret life, feathered outers, mysticism, intriguing, my operation, fasting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal hide inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. Give me the ability to hide in plain sight, so no one can see me, not even in the light. I am the crawler, I'm a within, I'm nobody's friend. This initiation is all part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My operation, fasting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal hide inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same.
That song is Bad Medicine. It's a Skinwalker song. We were told, don't make a Skinwalker song. We were told, don't make one about alien abduction. Don't make one about this. Don't make one about that. Blah, 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 blah. And we did it. So we're good at taking advice. Let's put it that way. Let's bring on our co-hosts here. We got Abe eating snacks. What's going on, my man? That's I got you eating some snacks there. Let's bring on Miss Rollins. The beautiful Mrs. Rollins.
Why, thank you.
Mrs. Kensington, like on like Austin Powers. Mrs. Rollins.
Mrs. Rollins, yes. The name that's so easy, yet nobody can spell correctly.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I would have maybe misspelled. I'm a good speller, but I maybe would have misspelled it if I didn't know that.
Because of the sporting gear, Rollins.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the baseball gloves.
Yeah, everything, yeah.
Rollins.
We're waiting on Mr. Breezy here. Mr. Breezy.
Joe.
We'll start the incredibly slow dipping mechanism and take a deep breath. So
don't bounce that ball too hard.
Yeah, because then so yesterday, what people need to understand something. And I'm going to say this while we're waiting for the chat to fill up. They think that me and my nephews that I'm bullying them and that I'm picking on them, whatever. But what they don't understand is, and Tony can attest. Hey, Tony can attest to this. Okay. Hey, Tony. Uh-oh, I got the mean one's attention. I'm looking for Tony. Oh God, here he comes.
They're really
Bully. People don't. I was looking for Tony.
Oh, okay.
All right, come on in, Tony. Close the door. People in the chat yesterday. This is Tony. People in the chat yesterday were talking about I'm the bully. Who's the bully between us three?
Abe is.
No.
I mean, I guess Anthony. Well, Anthony's usually the one that's attacking us.
He's the mean one.
Yeah, I mean, we like to talk in a normal. I'm not a very I am confrontational, but I'm not very loud. And Wolf is just naturally loud.
He's listening to them.
But he, it doesn't matter. I'll say it to his face. But
but I don't want him messing with me. I don't want him doing something.
He gets loud easily.
Here he comes. Here he comes.
He goes from silence.
Hey, I didn't give you permission to speak about me.
I knew you were
Get
listening.
back to work.
I did. Hey,
just
You got money to make.
Oh no!
It's
all
about
good.
money.
It's all about the money. Give me money.
Give us money.
Anthony is the one that's behind it.
Let me turn on some Palo Santo and pray for Brother Tony.
Yeah, there you go. So, folks, just so you
Take
know,
home.
the truth be told, though, it's not like that. Like we mess with each other. All of us go round and round. And really, the meanest one, I think, of all of us, you'd be shocked at who the meanest one is. I'm not going to say who it is. It's not us three.
I know who it is.
It's not us three. It's when you make that particular individual mad, there's no coming back. It is really like over the top. It's my brother. I'll be real honest. Oh man, he's got the worst temper. Breaking inanimate objects. Like, okay, he's gonna be so mad when I tell everybody this. 4 years ago, what was it? The iPad?
Yeah.
We bought him an iPad, and he broke it like in 4 days because of some girl made him mad.
oh.
Like, dude, I mean, like he, and then like they made up like 2 days later. I'm like, dude, well, you just broke your iPad. What did it hurt her? Now she thinks you're stupid. I mean,
Yeah, I remember one time I was like sleeping I think I just fell asleep watching TV or something in the living room. But I'm woken up by like slamming of the cupboards and like cussing cupboards out.
He
I'm
broke
like,
that
what the heck
freaking.
is going on?
He tore the door off the cupboard like one time, and then he broke the pantry.
Yeah, he's like yelling at it like it can talk back to him or something. Like don't tell yourself that talking to a brick wall that just gonna encourage him to speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
He should have a set of weights so when he gets pissed off, he does a good workout out of it. Turn it into positive.
He's got some bands and some other stuff that he works out with out there at the job site, but he's real strict too. Like there's certain guards that he likes because they don't bother him. So if you're one of those people that don't intrude upon him or in his little domain over there, you're good. But if a guard asks too many questions, he calls and tells me they're a nuisance. And I'm like, okay, that person needs to be trained. They're not just going to know what to do because they can't read your mind. But he thinks if he tells you one time, you're supposed to know how to do it, right?
Everybody's wearing glasses. Might as well put on mine too.
People always hold everyone else to a higher standard, though. That's the problem. I love my brother, and he's probably gonna start cussing at me. He'll start texting me and cussing me out, like I'm watching, not even paying attention. You watch, he'll start cussing at me. It's like,
yeah. My mom had that short temper, man. That once I see that, I started looking her face. There's gonna be things flying around, man. Whether it's a sandal, a broom, frying pan. The papalote, which is the thing you make the tortillas with.
Mm-hmm.
I would head out of the house.
Dude, that thing can do some serious damage. It's like a jokey thing amongst Mexicans, but if they hit you upside the head, dude, that could seriously hurt you, man. My cousin got put in the hospital by his stepmother for hitting him with one of those. Like he had to go to the hospital with concussion. Yeah, she was evil, boy.
You know, is that the way some of the people were raised, like before me, my mother and their father, they were real strict, like old-fashioned way, you know, like my grandfather, to my understanding, he used to live in Mexico and he would cross the border and they would send him back till he finally became an American citizen. But while he was trying to cross back and forth, when he would go back, his father would punish him. They would tie him up with chains and whip him with a whip.
Holy cow.
So, like a whip him. So that's the only thing he knew. So when he raised his children, which was my mother and all of them, he would do the same thing, discipline with a whip. You know
That's
how
not
he was done.
strict. That's
So I don't
straight.
blame my mom. However she came at me, because that's what they were taught. But that's how we break that cycle. Somebody has to break that cycle somewhere, right? So
Yeah.
I said to myself, I'm not going to be like that with my son or the people I love. I'm going to treat them with love. In spite of, I got disciplined numerous times in the harshest ways possible. I remember one time they made me hold rocks with my knees on the rocks on the ground in the middle of the sun for about 2 hours on my knees on the
never
rocks.
did that, but I was forced to hold books.
Oh,
Like,
man.
They would make me hold books.
Literally
like
on the ground where the rocks
horrible.
are sharp, like
Yeah,
that kind of
do all
punishment.
that. They didn't make me do all that, but they freaking did. I had all kinds of punishments. My dad, though, he didn't do a lot of punishing like that. It was just beating your ass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And if my
it's
mother
like,
had to call him and he was at work, he would just be like, I get off at 3, like, or whatever time it was. And then if he was on the swing shift, because he worked these shift work, if he was on the swing shift, he would wake me up out of bed at 11 o'clock. I'd already be in bed for like an hour, 2 hours, and he'd come in there and wake me up to get a spanking, dude. He did not care, dude. He would not forget about it either.
And in the spanking, you're not supposed to shed no tears, because if you're crying, there's another whooping. If you look a certain way, like a mean mug, there's another whooping.
Yeah, I couldn't get away with that.
Yeah, it's like, well, golly, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. They'll spank you till you quit crying, and then spank you till you cry. And then sometimes it was like my mom in particular wanted me to cry or something. I don't know. And then my dad didn't want me to cry. So it was like I had to show emotion with one of them and not the other. So I had it was
yeah, and then they'll whoop you, and like 10 minutes pass by, they come out of the room, they look at you. Are you upset because you got whooped? Or why are you looking at me like that? And then there's another whooping. It's like, golly. You're trying to recuperate from the whooping, and there comes another whooping. It's like,
Monica, did you get beat like that? Were you abused as a child? He's like, hell no, my parents love me. I don't know what the hell.
And then people think I'm a reptilian. They saw the blows to the head from the whoopings,
Well, that's the new rumor now. I heard that about Joe recently too. They said that I recruited other reptilian shapeshifters to be my co-host. So Monica, welcome to the reptile cage or whatever.
We're trying to hide our eyes, with the glasses.
Yeah, y'all are all wearing glasses to hide. Let me put mine on so I can hide the reptilian eyes. We're all wearing glasses. Look at this, folks. We're hiding behind our glasses.
That's right.
All it is. Really, behind these eyes is a snaky, whatever the dude said I was. I forgot what the way he said it. My eyes turned into snake eyes, or I think in the same like post he made, it was like I was a lizard and a snake. They're two different things, but we've been talking a lot about some weird stuff lately. So tonight, before I got here, I was a little bit late getting in. I was at Costco again, and I'm happy to announce that they gave me a refund for a 2% cash back. And so I hate to tell everybody, folks, it was so much that I will be retiring now.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it was $14.
Oh, wow.
I just want everybody to respect us for the next 2 weeks. We're not going to be doing anything. We're going to figure out how we're going to spend it.
Take some time to gather and move forward.
Take some time to figure. Let's get a lawyer and to see what he says about how we should invest this $14. Now they made it sound really epic. They were like, "You got money back. You need to go to the service desk." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I thought, you're going to tell me to go stand at the service desk. Got to be something. And the girl Ella, though, shout out to her. She was really nice, Ellie. She was like, "Yeah, it's $14." I'm like, "Wow." But shout out to Katie and Jacob. I walked up and they were talking about Area 51. And I looked at Anthony and Nellie and I said, "Well, we have a show." And then they started looking up, and then oh, wow. And so Katie said she was going to watch it tonight. So she might be she might be there. If you're there, Katie, thank you for subscribing, and to you too, Jacob, and to the other two at the front desk. I don't remember both of their names. I know Ellie. I can't remember the other one's name. There's a lot of people that are interested in serial killers. A lot of people. One of them had said something about they listened to that or watched that, and I was like, these. I get it. It's fascinating. You read about it, whatever. But some of these people, and I'm not saying they are, but some of the people that, they are so into these murderers.
Yeah.
And I think it's bad because it's like there's this whole cult of death. Now, I have a couple of my friends in this field that do the true crime. One of them is he has a very large channel, and he does a lot of true crime. And I don't want to bag on him, but it's just not my thing, man. Like, I'll listen to some of it, but it just, if I listen to more than like one or something, it gets me not in a good mood. I feel weird. I don't like listening to people being killed. It just doesn't do, but there's a lot of people that are just so into that true crime stuff, man. Thank you for that, Nicholas Bravo. He said $14. Now I can retire twice. I'm set for 2 lives.
Oh, there you go. That's Costco, man.
It's Costco money, bro.
Right there.
Legacy money. You're going to hand it down.
Right. But you know what? Hey, Joe, Abe, and Monica, you will be very proud of me. I resisted buying a peanut butter chocolate cream pie. They have this, not cream pie, but it's a chocolate peanut butter pie, like one of those. And I had it, and we didn't do it. We did not. We put it back. Me and my wife are like, we're committed. I'm going to lose about 40 pounds. And, so my wife's like, yeah, we're not going to do it. So I was really proud of her because usually when it comes to sweets, she can't resist. I'm not the sweet eater, but that pie, it looked really good. And I saw some people with one of them, and I was back there and I didn't do it. I didn't buy it. So.
No, I'm proud of you. That's not easy because those pies are good.
Yeah. You start describing it. They're delicious. Each bite is delectable. You can really taste the chocolate, the peanut butter, the crust.
Yeah. Just let it melt.
Tomorrow I'm over there like sneaking off to Costco again.
Keep the pie in the back seat, like under.
It looks like a chocolate peanut butter cup in a pie.
Mm.
How much did it cost? $14.99.
Yeah, it was about $14 or whatever. And so you look at that, you're thinking like a chocolate peanut butter cup. I've actually eaten one, especially because I'm not a big sweet eater, but when I do eat something, I'll eat something like that. But I'll eat the Quest version. And I was eating it the other day, and I thought this would be good with crust, like a pie. And it's unfortunate that my palate is very strong. Like, I can make stuff and be like, this is going to taste good. I can tell you it's going to taste good. And that's a curse because then you're like, oh man, I can make stuff taste really good, but it's not good for my love handles. So man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with the sweets as you get older, man. That diabetes ain't no joke.
It ain't, dude. That's why I don't want to mess with that.
You have to be careful. The sugars can thicken your blood, and you start having all kinds of ailments.
Well, caffeine is not good for you as you get older. Sugar is not good for you as you get older. Too much salt. But you know what'll really grab you by the hair? Heroin. That right there is just something that's very addictive, and you should just probably not do it. Me and Joe had a conversation about it the other day, and Joe said, hey, we should both stop. And I said, Joe, you're a quitter. You do what you got to do. But as for me, man, black tar, baby, black tar. I'm joking, folks. Let's give him a sound bite to go tell. He was talking to his satanic friend Joe about doing heroin. Oh.
Fellow Monica.
So tonight, when we get about 300 here, we'll start cracking it, but not cracking because they're probably going to think something about that too. But you know what I'm saying? We're going to start hitting it. Oh, see, I'm abusing people. Never mind. I can't say anything. So Monica's gonna tell you got some stuff for us, right, Monica?
I do have some stuff for you.
Okay, good.
I have some stuff from the Texoma area. We can kind of start. We're going to start in my house because my house is actually haunted. So
I'm not going to try to freak you out, but one of my listeners, it was 2 Fridays ago, said that they thought they saw something like real quick behind you, and I asked for a timestamp. I have yet to get it, but I was telling Joe about it. I was like, "Yeah, we're going to scare the crap out of her. We're going to show her this demon behind her." It was really Joe's idea. Joe's like, "Yeah, we got you," and then we'll have Abe come over and try to cast it out.
I can do that for you.
Too strong. I got to go, man.
I can get it out of your home.
What's in my house doesn't. Typically.
Is it like a shadow figure?
No. It's what I've seen is it's hilarious. Actually, it's a
Oh.
ghost dog. It's a dog. It's a ghost dog.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't have
Wow.
any negative feelings. Like this house isn't like scary haunted. It's just, you know, people passing through or residual, I think.
Well,
There's
then,
only one instance where it was definitely something negative, and I like immediately was like, out, you get out. Like I kicked it out. It's
whoa.
around. But yeah,
That's
I'll tell you
freaky that you said that, because the person that told me that she was saying that it wasn't a human. It didn't look human.
Yeah,
So maybe they caught a glimpse of something.
they could
Here's
have.
another weird thing. Sometimes people will see things they'll see something on a camera or something, and then I'll be like, what is this? I don't know what I'm looking at.
Right.
And other people will see it and they'll be like, oh, it's right there. And I'm like, really? So I think certain people can see things on the camera that other people can't. It's a weird thing how this whole, whatever works. So I told a story last night on the show, a guy that was in Belize. And so apparently his brother watched the show. He didn't, because he had told his brother that I was going to be telling that story last night. So his brother messages me this morning and says he didn't even tell you all the weird stuff that went on in the villa. And so his brother gave me a whole rundown of weird, wild stuff. And I said, yeah, because last night was really about his encounter with what he says was a werewolf, shapeshifter, or whatever. So when I was talking to his brother about, his brother had an incident with that guy too, that his brother, that I didn't, because his brother kind of glanced over what happened to his brother, like he said, hey, Francisco is the guy's name. I called him Frank, but anyway, the guy that messaged me today, last night, this morning, I wake up and he says, no, I had an encounter with that guy too. And he said, I think that he was going to try and do something to me, because he's slightly built. He's not a big guy. But his brother is he's tall. His brother's like 6'4", a big, tall guy. And he's very in shape, works out all the time. But his brother's small. He was sickly when he was a kid. And he thinks that these guys that they were there at that villa, that they were going to try to do something to him. And he says, I have an encounter with that guy. So, and he also had a very, very up close description of the Quetzalcoatl, that they called it, that was flying around the plantation. And he said that it was hovering right outside of his window the night that their aunt died.
Ooh, I'm interested.
She had a stroke, and then they were all getting ready to go to the hospital. And then they had like a maid, like a, what do you call it, a nanny? And the nanny took care of the younger children. And so that he was the oldest of the younger children. They said, no, you have to stay. And so this is his youngest brother. And so he stayed behind with the nanny. And dude, this thing was flying around the manor the whole night, screeching and howling. And the nanny was terrified. There were, of course, there were 4 servants in the house that sleep in the house. And they were all huddled together in one room with candles, lighting candles. And it's funny, Abe, you're talking about Palo Santos, but he said they were burning like some sort of incense. He don't remember what it was. It could have been Palo Santos, but it was a scary story. So I'm going to have to get to tell that one, because he said that there's a lot of that stuff down there in Belize, and that it's like two classes. You're either really, really rich or you're really, really poor. And Mexico is very similar, except Mexico does have a sort of a middle class that's sort of like burgeoning, whatever. And that is predominantly the last presidential administration. Him and what's his face down there? What's the president's name of Mexico? Oh God, slips my mind. Almador. He had a deal he had made with the former president, and they had built 2,400 maquiladores, and the economy was booming, and we were shifting the trade from China to Mexico. So if that guy would have had another 4 years, what would have happened with Mexico probably would have been industrialization on a scale that we haven't seen since China rose, And so we would have been looking at a possible, them not being third world and entering into, because parts of it are sort of third, maybe, if you want to say second, I don't know if that's a thing, but they would have entered the first world, and it would have been a lot less immigration coming from Mexico. People don't understand that. They think that this is You know, that's something it's not, dude. It's a cause and effect. But that Mexico is in danger of becoming, you know, falling into that whole pit. Like Belize is like, you're either really rich or you're really poor, and the really poor work on, you know, and the rich feed off of them. And these guys made no bones about it. I mean, they're not trying to be part of the patrician class. They left. Their dad and mom grew up in that aristocracy for generations. They're not a part of it, and they don't choose to be a part of it. And so they've gone off to do other things. He worked as a missionary for 6 years, his younger brother. And so he was an interesting guy. He saw some really weird things when he was down in South America. But you know, it's crazy. It said, Austin Berry says, Wolf will never talk about people with vertically slit pupils, it seems. What? We talk about that all the time. What are you talking about? You kidding me? Like we were just talking about, like, we talk about that all the time. Like, you've been drinking the Kool-Aid from old brother Perry, the roofie guy. You know, they're talking about that weird stuff. No, you know, satanic, he's a satanicist. Yeah, Austin, you need to get your ears checked, man. If you're not listening to the show, or you could just shut up. That's another one you could do. My options to you.
Options.
And then they'll message you, I'm no longer a listener. And I'm like, I no longer care. Never did. So, whatever. You're not hurting my feelings either by just stepping in and hoofing it, buddy.
For the Kool-Aid Fund.
Just in time. My man Liberty coming through with the Kool-Aid Fund. Thank you, sir. Because some of these people need the Kool-Aid. Okay, so Austin is actually, I'll post that on there. Austin says, I have seen it and wonders what it means. Is English maybe not your first language? Maybe that's what that could be. I didn't mean to be so hard on you, but we get trolled and I have to troll back. So, in fact, I have a sticker on my refrigerator. It's like a wolf, you know, he's wearing a top hat and he's like, careful. I know, he says, you F with me, I F back. So it's been my motto for years. I don't, you can't take these people.
FAFO.
Dark release says cherry flavored. Exactly. The cherry flavor sentence seems like it's going to be because I need that. I need that for my gout. Never had gout in my life until I had the Cron version of that wonderful soup that they gave us. And after that, had it 3 times in a year and a half. And my doctor said that he has seen it just skyrocket like 600%. And people my age, gout, people that never had gout before, just getting it left and right. But so, Monica, we got people in the chat now. Let's get started. And then me and Joe and Abe will critique everything you do and say.
Of course you will.
As misogynists. Yay! I'm just kidding.
Oppress the women. Okay. Make them, put him on the spot. Put him on the spot.
Yeah, one of us. Okay. All right.
Yes. So I know that you had asked about the Texoma area. So I'm going to, like I said, we'll start at my house and just kind of go out from there. Because my house, like I said, is haunted. It was built a little over 100 years ago. I know for a fact that 2 people have died here over the years. Wow. Not like murder, suicides. It wasn't anything dramatic like that. They were, you know, elderly people who chose to cross over at home, let's say. So moving in here, I mean, when we were looking for houses, I'm always wanting to feel a vibe, right? I don't want to go somewhere that feels off because I like historic houses. I like older houses. I don't like negative energy filled old homes. So this place was pretty chill. I didn't feel anything terrible around here. And within a few months of moving in, I saw the ghost dog. And somebody in the chat earlier had asked if it was a black dog. And no, it wasn't a black dog. I'd have really freaked out if it was a black dog.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. So no, I had actually been in my bedroom and I thought that I heard like paw steps. Well, I've got cats, right? Small cats. And this sounded large. So I turned around and looked just in time to see the back end of a black and white dog kind of spotted around the corner, and it was like a medium-sized dog. It was bigger than a cat, so it was definitely not my cat's. And I was thinking, okay, ghost dog, that's new. I haven't seen one of those. And I didn't really say much. I told my husband about it, and he has never really had any kind of a paranormal experience in his life, even though he is a Bigfoot, investigator, just like I am. He's never really had anything paranormal happen to him. And he was always, the kind of person who would be like, yeah, sure you saw it, sure you did. Well, one day he was here by himself on the phone with a friend. And at that point, this was a couple of years after we had moved in, my mother had a puppy. She did eventually get a dog. And when she left the house, she had put it in the backyard. And Chris was on the phone talking to a friend, and he saw the dog walk from our music room, through the living room that he was sitting in and into the dining room where I am now. And he thought, oh gosh, that dog's supposed to be outside. What's going on? So he went all around the house looking for him and could not find him. And finally he, went to the back door, looked out the door, and the dog's running around in the backyard. There's no dog door. There's no way for him to get outside. So he believes us now that there's a ghost dog haunting our house. And
Wow.
yeah.
My brother used to do that. Like when he first moved in with us, he's like, you guys are like the little rascals. And he was making fun of us. And he called me Spanky, and Scorpion was Alfalfa, and Willie was Buckwheat. And he literally had us all named, and he was mocking and making fun. And every morning, at one point we were working, all the time. And on a Sunday mornings, we had a day job that we all were doing, helping somebody remodel. And so we were getting up on Sunday after working all night Saturday, and we would get up with 4 hours sleep, man, because our generation was like that. And still is, but we would get up and we would, and we were eating breakfast, and he didn't say anything. No making fun, no more of the little bull crap, whatever. And I said, you sure are quiet today. He was just down eating his breakfast. And I was like, he's like, oh, I'm sleeping better. I'm like, mentiras. I said, what happened? Something happened. This house has got a bunch of stuff. Don't tell me nothing's happening. And then later on that afternoon, I heard him talking to one of the guys we were working with at our friend's house that he was remodeling, and telling him that something had grabbed him. And so I confronted him, and I said, you still want to call me little rascals, or you want to, after that, the joking and stuff stopped. And he's come on the show and talked about what has happened to him there. We've had half a dozen people come on and talk about it. Yeah, that's weird stuff. Until that happens to them, though, they like to make it out like it's some kind of chuckle house,
Yeah. Like it's all in your head, right? I'm not saying you didn't see it. I'm just saying I've never experienced anything like that. Well, now you have.
Did you rub it in when it happened?
Yes, of course I did.
Not humble at all. You're just like, yeah, yes, the demon grabbed you. That's what you get in your face.
Opens the whole veil for you. You see it all now.
I don't know, guys. Should we be celebrating that? The worse, the better. Did he claw you? Did he give you the 3 claws, or how did it?
Well, if it was 3 claws, we'd be having a different conversation.
Well, some people, I talk to people all the time, and there was a lady telling me the other day that she was actually glad that her husband got slapped on the back. And I was like, what? She's a nice person, though. Seriously, she is. She was just like, she's from Britain. She's like, I was just so tired of him teasing me and telling me that I was crazy. When this thing slapped him on the back, I cheered. And then I was like, oh, no, my husband could be hurt. But he deserved it. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
Did it leave a handprint?
She did, yeah. She said that there was like a handprint on his back.
Oh, man.
Well, what was creepy, though, that it was like 3 fingers. And a thumb. It was only like 4. It was like 4 digits. And she asked me if I ever heard of anything like that. And at first I scared her. I was like, no. That is the worst demonic infestation I've ever heard of. And she's like, really? I said, no, I'm kidding. I said, I'm joking. But she was happy.
Well, sure. It's like vindication, right?
Yeah.
Make me feel stupid for so many years. Here you go.
She sounds so vindictive.
So, did it continue? You continue to see the ghost dog, or
No,
it stopped?
I haven't seen him in a few years now. What I would also get, I think there was a lot more activity when we first moved in because we didn't remodel, but we were updating some things. And, you know, whenever you do that kind of work in an old home, it really kicks things up. So
kicking up
we had the ghost dog, and I was smelling like a jasmine perfume, like moving through different rooms on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, none of it ever really scared me. You know, I could hear the floor because, you know, it's an old home. My floorboards creak. I'd be laying in bed in the middle of the night. And at that time, my husband was working overnights. So I was alone in the house, and I'd hear, like, you know, somebody walking across my bedroom floor because the floors would creak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I mean, I was never really scared, except the one night that I'll tell you about. We were having a pretty decent windstorm. And my son came running into my bedroom from the living room. And he was like, I hear something scary outside. And I said, okay. So I ran out there, you know, thinking maybe somebody's poking around our home. And with it being as windy as it was, and I want to say it was fall, there were leaves on the ground. I'm thinking you just heard, you know, leaves scraping across the front porch or something. You know, it's no big deal. I said, it'll be okay. If you get really scared, you can come in here with me. And he did end up like sleeping in my room that night. And I remember as I was laying in bed, I heard something kind of weird that I just chalked up to the wind, right? Kind of, you know, the opposite side of the house. He was in the living room when he heard the scary noise. And I heard it kind of out in my dining room area, but it was definitely outside of the house, right? And what Lucas had heard was outside of the house. And I thought, okay, that's like, you know, some crazy wind noises. I wasn't really chalking it up to much. And then I turned the lights out. I'm going to, you know, just about going to sleep. I was, you know, trying to relax. And I heard in my house this time, coming from my living room through the music room towards my open bedroom door, just this ungodly like screech. It was like, I mean, it was like that, but 100 times louder and moving through my house. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the only time I had, exactly, that's the only time I had ever been scared like that. I mean, with something in my home. And I remember
that was a creepy, the way you made that sound, that just creeped me out right there.
Yeah.
Well,
I was like, is that a Chusta?
Yeah, imagine being like.
So it sounded like a screech. Was the owners before you moved in, were they like military or anything like that?
You know, I don't think so. The woman that owned the home before us was an elderly lady who lived alone. She was an artist. So yeah. So I don't know the people before that. But when I heard this noise, you know, in the pitch dark coming towards my bedroom door, I instinctively like popped out of bed. You know,
yeah, like as you were saying the story, I got this image of something, you know, I seen an image of a man, but the face was skeleton, but then you could see some spiky hair that looked like he was like, the way his hair was like, he was in the Marines or something, you know, spiky, like what do you call those?
Like a crew cut.
Like a bird pit.
The flat tops.
Yeah.
But his face was like skeleton, you know, and he had a smile on his face as you were saying the story.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it could have been one of the people from back in the day that passed away in the home. It could have been.
Yeah, that's what I seen. I seen a vision.
Yeah,
when you're saying it,
heard it. What I saw in my mind hearing it was something like long and dark. That's what I was seeing. You know, in my mind, listening to this come towards my door, I see this long, dark shadow, pointy, like no discernible features, but definitely I could see it floating towards my door in my mind. So I spring out of bed and I run and shut my door. And I remember I was holding the door shut, and instinctively I'm like, can I get to my gun before? But,
wow.
You know, because I'm thinking, you know, I automatically think intruder. I mean, instinctively, I know it's not. And then I think to myself, well, what am I going to do? Shoot a ghost? Like, stupid. And I stood there for a minute holding the door closed until I couldn't hear anything anymore. And it was quiet for a while. And then, you know, I'm shaken up and it's still pitch black in the home in my bedroom. And I walk over and I sit on the side of my bed that faces the door. And I'm sitting there for a minute trying to collect myself. And my door goes click, click, like somebody engaged the knob.
Yeah.
It swings open slowly. And I was like, oh, hell no. So I turned the lights on and I jumped up and I looked around and I went through the home and I turned on all the lights. And then I got really mad. And I mean, I've done this before because I've been in haunted locations before. I've had, spirits come at me before. And I really did go through the house and just, tell it to leave. I don't know that, I don't think it was demonic. I didn't really call on God or Jesus. I was just, when things like this have happened in the past, this is my space. This is my energy. This is my home. This is not your home. You are not welcome here. If you're going to be scaring people and acting crazy, get out of my house. Get off of this land. Right. You are not welcome.
Yes, especially making that noise. It's like that sounded like a lechuza. That's what we call it in Spanish, right? A lechuza, which is a bruja, a witch.
Yeah.
But then manifest into what's the other terms in mythology, Brother Josh? Sirens.
Sirens.
There's some sirens. There's sirens that are in the ocean. Mm-hmm. There's sirens that are like bird-like. And that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Lechuzas, witches.
Yeah.
That's what they manifest to.
Hey, Joe, I got a question for you. You're because your mother was into the Hebrew, whatever. And you learned a lot about that. We were talking the other day. Me and Joe were talking on the phone the other day, and we talked about all kinds of stuff. And I wanted to say publicly thank you for that, because I was having anxiety when you reached out to me, Joe. And actually, I couldn't sleep. And so after we talked or whatever, it was so boring. I just went straight. I'm joking. I'm kidding. No. When you talked right out, man. I had a great conversation with you, man. And after that, I went and I fell asleep. It was like, dude, I was so glad that you reached out to me, because I was feeling anxious and I was having some issues, and I was like, I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to wake my wife up and bother her. So thanks for that conversation, man. I really appreciate people reaching out and looking out for me and stuff. Another one that does it pretty regularly, Garitano, Barton and Ken, both of them too. They're always, they look out for me a lot. I appreciate all of that. I really do. But because everybody knows that I'm going through stuff, whatever, and you too, Abe, you too. Monica doesn't, not so much. She don't care about me, but everybody else does.
Well, she's got her own stuff to worry about. She got the dog appearing over there, and that bird-like creature.
Floating through my living room.
Joe, there was a name. We were talking about Hebrew mythology one day, and you had mentioned something, and I don't know if I remember if this came up or not, but there's a name for these things in the Hebrew language for the harpy. It's a Greek, because they were considered to be the wives of the fallen, of the Nephilim.
They're called. I think they were sirens, wasn't they?
Yeah, the sirens though. Those are like the sylph. They're like the undine and the sylph. Not so much the same thing. A little.
Yeah, they were saying that they were affiliated with the Watchers, the sirens that are mermermaids, and the sirens that are the bird-like, that they're creations of the Watchers.
But that's a Celtic word, because there's a name for them in every language, but there's a Hebrew name for them, and I can't remember if I read it in the Kabbalah, and me and Joe had talked about it, but we talked about so many different things. Heck, who knows, man?
Yeah,
we were talking about video games.
Yeah, I know in Oral Torah, especially, that's where that was the first one to become one of those. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the first one was Lilith.
Lilith,
the first wife of Adam.
Monica's looking around for Lilith.
They said that.
I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
When she got booted, the woman.
Yeah, because she refused to be submissive to Adam.
Yeah. That was Adam's first wife, and I believe that that's a true story. Now, it's not in the canon of the regular Christian Bible, but there are a lot of books that aren't canon in the Bible. But if we start talking about it, we get attacked because people don't want to hear the truth, and they
Hey, brother Josh, to my understanding, they said that the women that slept with the washers, that created the Nephilim, they became the sirens and the harpies.
harpies,
That they became like demonic in nature. They
that
because
was their curse.
They became the sirens.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. The women that slept with the washers became the sirens. That they changed form.
Yeah.
By sleeping with them. Yeah.
And Joe, what do you know about that? Do you have anything about that, like in the Hebrew? Because you have.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of what it's basically. We just summed it up. But yeah, that's where apparently that whole, whatever you want to call it, that entity, that was the curse that God gave upon the women who were having affair with the Nephilim. Or not with the Nephilim, but with the fallen.
The fallen,
I think the Nephilim and the fallen are two different. I think the Nephilim,
the Nephilim are their children,
right? The offspring of the fallen, but yeah. So that was because, well, and I'm not trying to sway anybody's. This is just theory, or it could be considered history, but. So there was an entire civilization outside of Eden back in the gap. It wasn't like, it got, and some go, okay, Adam was the first man, or some say Adam was the first man that actually had a soul. So there's like different aspects, but there was stuff going on outside of it because, whenever Cain got booted from the garden, right? He went to the land of Nod. So if they're the only 4 people on earth, Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel at the time, where's this, the city of Nod? Where's this, where did he go to? So there is a plausible explanation for there being a different civilization outside of Eden itself. And that's supposedly was populated by, because same with Lilith. Whenever she went out, got cast out in Oral Torah. I forget the name of the fallen that mated with her first.
Samael.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So and then she ended up, even whenever after Adam got kicked out. She found her way. Him and Eve split up for a while, and she found her way back in and got re-impregnated by him as well. So there's a whole little, but she was already a siren at that point, and that's apparently how she convinced him to finally, coerce with her. But then he split and went back. I've done that.
and the washers just didn't sleep. They didn't sleep just with women. The washers slept with animals also.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So it was just women that slept. So I know if they changed, then the animals that slept with had to change too.
Right.
Well, so the thing too is, like, if you study it globally, and if you look at the history, and you go back in time to that period, and you go to China, for example. I've done a lot of research in China, and there is a Han library that a lot of people don't know about that's in China, and that you can actually access it if you know the right people. And they have their own version of the Freemasons. People don't know that there is an Asian version of the Freemasons, just like the Yakuza. Okay, I'm going to be real honest with you, and this is the truth. I'm going to be real honest with you. A friend of mine, his family is really, really deep into the Yakuza. Now, that is the Japanese version of the mafia. Yeah. And he's on my Facebook. He makes swords. If anybody's interested in really nice samurai swords, literally it takes 4 years on average to make a good one. Longer if you want to. I have a couple that he took forever. I was like, what is this? And he goes, dude, you don't understand. He's from Kyoto. And he said that, if you want me to make an actual good sword, not some American bullcrap, that you buy off of the flea market, or as we would say, Abe, the pulga.
The pulga.
The flea. But if you want a real one, he takes years, but he'll make it, and it's about $1,200. It's reasonable. It's actually a reasonable price. I paid $2,800 for a set about 20 years ago from Japan, from Osaka, and it took 2 months. And I was thinking it's never going to happen. They're never going to show up, and I was freaking out. But I have them, and they have the stamp on there and everything from the where they make them. But anyway, that's off the topic. But what he does though is like he has done a lot of work with me, helping me translate and do different things. And they have a library that's in the Far East, and there's one in Japan, there's one in China, one in Southeast Asia and Siam, and they're all connected, these libraries, and they have different versions of the history. And if you match those up, they match up to the Sumerian tablets, and also matches up to the Hebrew Bible. It matches up. I mean, it does. It coincides with it. But they all say the same thing, that there was something here before that. Like every culture on earth, with the exception of the few Western beliefs in the Bible. And I'm even talking about the Hebrews. The Hebrews even say there was something before that. The only ones that don't believe that are fundamentalist Christians. And I'm not, and they think I'm attacking them. I'm not attacking you, folks. What I'm trying to tell you is you need to wake up to the reality that this is not the reality. You think this is not it. I promise you, I would never lead you down the road to perdition. I'm just trying to wake you up to the reality of what's real. And I know that it's hard to understand. And I'm sorry that, Monica, you screeched like that. And we started talking about we went off. I will get back on track with that. But look, the point, though, and like what Abe was saying and what Joe was saying, these creatures or whatever, lachusas, we call them, we see them all the time in our culture. I don't, but a lot of my primos, my cousins, they've seen them, you know. And even one of my cousins is a Walio. He's a white guy on my dad's side. My cousin Trey, he saw one. He was with 3 of his friends, and they were all Hispanic, and they were throwing rocks at a church. Yeah, real stupid. Well, they weren't throwing at a church. They were throwing rocks at a tree. It's something that they saw above a church. Mm-hmm. And this thing spread its wings and flew over them, and it had a woman's face. So my cousin flipped out. He was a teenager, like 14, you know, I was like 18 or something. And he told me, "What did I see?" And I said, "You saw the devil. It's going to eat you." And I was messing with him. He was all scared. He's like, I was like, "Yeah, it's going to come to your house, man. It's a curse, man. It's going to come get you." And he was all like, "Really?" Like he was all scared, you know. But like he talked about it on my show. You know, it's those things, they were cursed. And so whenever those brujas, when they do the magic and all that, they take on the form of those beings. Because God says, you know, in the Bible, it says, you know, in the Old Testament, right there, it's like they're going to be evil spirits for all time. And in Enoch, it goes on to say that. Now, what's even weirder, though, this library, the one I read about from Osaka, it was very interesting. It was talking about the sons of man breeding with these children of light, which it was describing as that to them was the sons of God, right? And they all bred together, but they created this being that they basically would call an archon. Jesus talks about the archons, right? And so this archon, it's actually, some of them, believe this or not, some of them were more powerful than these star-like angels, because they had been imbued with a human characteristic that the angels did not have, which humans have opinion over the angels, so that they were very powerful. Now, when Solomon, in the lesser key of Solomon, and I know that, Joe, we've talked about this in the Song of Solomon, I believe it's in the lesser key, where he says that he asks one of these demons, and he says, "I don't answer to you. I don't answer unto my Father," which he's talking about this angel, which is like what they call the Fury. It's like an angel that had bred with this sort of like Medusa type creature, whatever. And he said this thing had a snake-like appearance, and it walked on legs like a man. And it basically told him, "I don't answer to you. You know, I don't answer even unto my Father." And when he's talking about his father is a very high-ranking, former angel, was a fallen angel. So this guy was too strong to even be controlled. And when they asked one of these demons, his name starts with an A, I'm not going to say it, and people want to talk about Beelzebub. Well, I just said his
I know
name,
what
but
you're talking about.
that being, they when he's brought up in the Song of Solomon, he says where do you hail from? And he says, I come from across the Black Sea. My son haunts the Black Sea and he controls it. And he's like, I dare not go there. So when these beings are saying to Solomon, like, I'm afraid of my children, it's what they're saying. I mean, like, when you read it, you're going like, what the hell, dude? Like, it is really hard to press. I mean, you're sitting there going like, what? But this is Hebrew canon. I mean, when you read this, now it's not canon to the Christians because they don't believe that, because our Bible's been cut down to this much. But that's what it says. And so when you're thinking of something that's more powerful than a fallen angel, not only are these things evil spirits, but and unruly children, but then some of their offspring, the third and fourth generation offspring, and it talks about this in this Chinese library that I was reading. Some of the translations are very hard to translate, but it was from Cantonese to English, and it was saying that they came unto, which is to coitus, right, with the great children and their children's children, and they reprocreated, creating another race of beings that were kind of like a minor version of Titans that could walk amongst humans with superhuman strength and could devour man by changing their shape. So these things are like third, fourth generation. They're going back and they're breeding with the first generation and reconstituting that, because there was a race of beings that fell before the fallen. And people do not understand that. They don't grasp that. The fallen are actually the 200 watchers from the book of Enoch, which is Genesis 6, the long version of it, really. But before that, there was a war in heaven, and that there was a rebellion. A third of those angels fell. Those angels, don't get them twisted and confused. Those are roaming free. The 200 watchers have been imprisoned within the earth, and then supposedly two of them are like, this is what I've read, that they're imprisoned on Saturn. I know it sounds bizarre. It sounds really bizarre, but you have to read what I've read. And folks, if you don't go to the Orient or to the Levant, the Middle East, I don't mean you have to travel there, but if you don't go there for the answers, you're not going to find them. There's another library in Turkey. There was one in Syria and Aleppo, and those libraries have been destroyed. Well, the one in Aleppo has been wiped out because it had a massive amount of esoteric information. And of course, Abe, you're a veteran. Thank you for your service. You know, because we've talked about this, that when we went into Iraq, one of the first places that they wanted to go was into Baghdad, because they wanted the knowledge, because there was the knowledge of the stargates so they could use that knowledge. Now we know after they invaded, that's when the project really ramped up in what's it called in Switzerland, Geneva. So they went and they created, and it says this in the New Testament, and that behold the seed of Satan, whatever, where my servant Antipas was murdered. When Jesus is talking about that in the New Testament, go look it up. He's basically referring to the same place where they have created this Hadron Collider, one of them, they have multiple. And the first one, anyway, the big one that they're using to create a black hole, it's not a black hole. They're opening the abyss, folks, and they're opening the seal. And what's going to happen? It's already happened, but it's going to warp time and space. And these beings are going to have a bridge. But what people don't understand is they suck so much energy that they could literally kill part of the earth by being here. They're not supposed to be here. They don't belong here. And these are beings that come from beyond, like far away. They're from another dimension, another time.
I think the Bible it says they come from the dark void.
The void, yeah, the void.
The dark void. That's how they say it in the Bible. The dark
Which is the
void.
abyss. Mm-hmm.
They're evil beings are coming from the dark void, which is the abyss.
That is actually, and it's weird because if you read like in the Hebrew canon, and it's also in these Asiatic canons too, that Lucifer, the first, or the fallen, and they don't all call him that. They have different names for him. His name is Saturn, Saturna. That's another one. The Celts called him that. The Romans called him that. It's no coincidence. It was shocking to the Romans, if you read some of the Roman historians, that the Celts had the same name for the bad guy that the Romans did. And it wasn't because the historians have tried to say that it was a commingling between the Iberian Celts and the Gauls and the Picts, and they all just, and the Romans gave it to them. No. When they invaded in Transalpine Gaul, which was part of Spain, France, whatever, Julius Caesar was shocked at the names that were so similar, and that there had to be a common ancestry there because they have the same names. And Salernus, which is one that they use in Siam, I mean, like, you're sitting there going like, how did Asians way on the other side of the world, just an L with a T, just change it, instead of Salernus, I mean, and then you mix the words up of Salernus, it turns into what? Lucifer. Yeah. He was the original fallen. He was the rebellious one. He tried to seize the throne of God. And so he was cast out by Michael the archangel, whose name means he who is like God, because he did what God wanted him to do, and he pushed him out. And he was a cherub. He stood up. He was not even one of the higher ranking angels, but he took charge and he took initiative, and he kicked him out of heaven, literally beat him down and threw him out. Cast him out and threw him off the throne of God. Now, the question to me, though, is why would God be not on his throne? I don't understand that. That's a strange thing. We can't comprehend really to understand what was going on. There really is no way. All we have is a bunch of theory and conjecture and a bunch of people.
The creator of life. So he's
the creator of life. Well,
continues to grow.
Here's the thing. The Holy Spirit, in some versions of different, and there's a lot of different versions of this. The Holy Spirit is actually God of the eighth heaven, which is beyond the seventh heaven, which is as far as the God that we know of it goes. The highest is the seventh heaven, but there is an eighth level, which is the Holy Spirit. So he who is God, the Holy Spirit resides with him. So God, it doesn't matter who the God is. It's the Holy Spirit. Which is why Jesus says that blasphemy of the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin, because you are rejecting the creator infinite mind that is connected to all things of the universe. So you cut yourself off like a cancer to be cast out, like a canker, like a wart. And that's, to me, if you go in and if you've read all the things that I've read, you would be understanding like, hey, this is how it makes sense, because a star fell from the sky and the pieces went everywhere, and everybody picked up a shard and said, look, I have the truth. Yes, you do, but it's incomplete. And I'm not saying we should have some one world religion. That's a bunch of hokey crap. I'm not talking about that. That would never work. There's too many things people don't agree on. But there was a world here before, because it says that God hovered over the face of the deep. So there was already water here. So what place
on the waters and up on the face of the deep.
Yeah. And so people that get so offended and they try to say that these idiots go around saying that I think the Anunnaki were God. I never said they were gods. I said they had the ability to make people. We have the ability to make people. Does that make us God? No, it does not.
Right.
But so many people want to be like God or God-like, so that they cling to the notion that God, created us, and that it was him, the one that he dotes on us and everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there was not something else. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that that's the truth or it's not the truth. That's usually something to do on Saturday. But it's just, you need to take a look at it, because it doesn't matter how you slice it. God is God, But in the Hebrew version, and even the rabbis, and I've even had one, and Monica, you were on the show with me with Rabbi John, who agreed. I mean, that this is not the way we think it is. And they would know, it's their book. I mean, it's their religion. But yet there's Christians that are like, no, they're wrong. Everybody's wrong. Baby Jesus is who I worship, and that's who I believe created the world, was baby Jesus. And you're like, dude, you have no clue. You're not even taking a tenth of the knowledge that's out there. You were reading from one little book. It would be like if you went to the Library of Alexandria and you took one scroll and ran out and said, here it is, folks, I got it right here. And you ignore the thousands of other texts that are there to learn from, because you're not getting a perspective from any other source. And I can tell you right now, you are not, you could go to a Baptist church or a Presbyterian church, or you could be a Muslim or whatever. You could sit there all day long and read from the same stuff over and over and over and over again. And you are not going to expand your wisdom any more than what is in that text. That is it. It is actually impossible to learn anything other than what is in that text, because you're not learning anything else, because you're not reading anything else, because you're too scared to come out of your box. But we're told literally that there is a prison of the mind, and it is literally called a black box. That's weird. And that's in Hebrew scripture too. So that you don't want to be in that black box. That is not where you want to be. I mean, it is a weird thing that people do. It's a self-imprisonment of the mind. And I didn't mean to get on a big tangent or whatever.
Yeah.
Expanding,
like the number, like the 7 times fold. I noticed spiritually when I fought, I fought against warlocks and witches in the past, and when it says 7 times, it's like 7 days path, right? When I don't accept the negativity of what they're trying to do to me spiritually, but by the 8th day, something always happens by the 8th day, and it resonated with me when you're talking about the Holy Spirit, that it's in the 8th
level,
in the 8th level,
which is the infinity.
So all I have to do, I'm gonna tell my love, and I don't accept the negativity, but the negativity that somebody's trying to ditch back, it goes back on the 8th day. So most of these people that are faced spiritually, something happens to them on the 8th day, which is, that's how the Holy Spirit works.
And 888 is actually the number of Christ. 666 is the number of the Antichrist. 777 is the number of man. That's the truth. I mean, that's numerology, and because it has that ology on the end of it. These idiots will go, "Oh, are you doing some kind of sorcerer?" No, stupid. Everything breaks down to numbers. Why do you think everything is tagged and cataloged in numbers? If you work in a warehouse, you know that everything is numbers. You don't even look at what the thing says it is. It could say it's a chair. It doesn't mean it. You read the number. That's what it is, and everything is numbers. And that's why Jesus says that 666 is a human number. It is the number of a man. And he says that. He tells you that. Now, why would Jesus be so adamant about numbers if that wasn't the case? Numbers are everything, and it is the code to everything. We live literally in this watered down, I don't know what you want to call it. Like this is not the real reality. If you ever come out of your body and you really go into the next level, not that astral phase, I'm talking about beyond that, going into the 5th density. I've only done it once, I guess twice. It's more real than real. It's like, wow, this is reality. And you're like, then you go back into this reality and it doesn't even make sense. You can't comprehend. I mean, it blows your mind, and your mind can't even comprehend. And I can't even describe it to you unless it happens to you. You would not understand it. It's just something you can't do. I mean, but that is where God and the angels and Christ, they reside on that higher level that we can't see. We're close to the 4th level, which is where the demons live, because they're the lower level entities. They can't go beyond the 5th density. They'll be destroyed. So 6th, 7th, 8th are the true heaven is and the highest is the 8th. Now the Gnostics talk a lot about that the true living God is in the 8th level, and the demiurge is the God of this world, which is the 7th level. He goes up to the 7th level. This is not what I believe. I'm saying this is what they believe. So then it becomes like a whole, well, who's correct and whatever. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is I cling to Christ like driftwood in the ocean, because that is where the truth is. He's going to get you where you need to be. That's all I tell people. Yep. You're not going to be able to get there.
Right. Yeah. To touch on before we change topic or whatever, but yeah, to touch on what Abe was saying about the changing of the forms. One of the main ideologies about that with the fallen is because they didn't have a way to actually reproduce with mankind. So that's when you implement the incubus and the succubus. So they would pretend to be, they would form themselves into females. They would get the DNA from the male, and then reinsert back, then turn themselves back into or go from a succubus, hit up a dude, retract the DNA, and then reinsert it as an incubus. So that that's I just wanted to touch on that because that's such a, I wouldn't say fascinating thing, but it makes a lot of sense, because you're talking about other spiritual beings that aren't composed and aren't made of the same DNA structures that we are. So how are they, it'd be like a dog and a cat breeding, it can't happen. I mean? So they had to manipulate it in a way where
genetic tampering is what I think it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where you get into like the Anunnaki stuff, genetic.
They said that they manifested to look like man and deceive the women, right? But the women that they slept with, they became those sirens. Yeah, but because they could shapeshift. If y'all remember throughout the Bible, there's a lot of verses there where it talks about the angels came and took manifestation of man that could be manifested for a day, for 2 days. Well, in that nature, when the watchers are imprisoned, what was left behind was the disembodied Nephilim after the flood,
right? Yeah,
which are demonic. So, when I capture some images, when I go investigate, what are they doing? Because they're created by the watchers. They're watching. They're behind you, just watching. Watchers watching. They're supposed to be looking over mankind, but they're demonic now. But they have the same capabilities as they're the ones that created them, which they're able to shapeshift and manifest into whatever they want. But they just don't have a vessel. Yeah, they don't have a vessel, and they have the abilities to possess. That's what we call them, the demons.
Yeah. I subscribe to that. I definitely subscribe to that.
So, Monica, let's get back to you. We'll finish. I'm sorry, we got off on the tangent there.
I don't want to.
It was the scream.
Keep talking. Tell us the story.
Hey, Monica, can you make the noise again of the bird?
The screeching noise?
Yeah.
we gotta get it like overlaid, so like every time something.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Screech, screech, screech.
Screech, screech, screech.
No, the way you made it sound, I believe that.
Again.
Because I've heard how Lechusa's sound,
Yeah.
But that was crazy.
Yeah, it's just
It makes you wonder if it was a bird or it was something else, like like a different creature.
Yeah, it was a creature for sure. It was a bird in my living room for 100%.
I would say more like it was making this noise like a sonar to track to see if there's any movement. Like it makes a noise to scare, like the owls do. That's why they screech.
It could have been, but that's the noise that I heard, I believe, like out on the outside of my house, right? And more than likely the sound my son heard earlier, where he came running into my bedroom scared, and I was trying to, calm him down, saying it's just leaves scraping across. But this thing, what disturbed me, not as much, I didn't like it in my house, but it was disturbing to think this thing was circling my house apparently for a while before it somehow came in. It came in and was coming, down the hall towards me. It was coming in the music room towards my room. And I'm the first bedroom that you come to. I don't know if it was, singling me out, if it was the house. I don't know where this thing came from, because like I said, the energy in my home has always been very calm.
Yes.
I understand that there are spirits here, but they're not, popping out and scaring people. I've never had a negative feeling in this home ever, except for that one time. And I don't know what drew it into me. I don't know if
then he moved your doorknob. It's like open up slowly.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's crazy,
Yeah, but I don't know that it was demonic, so I was able to get rid of it. By the time I got out, I really didn't feel it. Of course, all the hairs on my body are standing up. Yes. So I felt that. But when like I said, I've had entities come to me before, and there's many, many times in my life where, and I don't know if you guys have ever felt this, where you're sitting in a room and you feel something come in, right? You feel the presence come in and just kind of stand there.
Yes.
I've had that happen so often. And typically it doesn't unnerve me, but if I'm getting like a real bad feeling off of it, I'll kick it out. Because I do believe that those are just humans, like it's like ancestors, somebody just coming in and but if it's making me feel weird, get out. Like I've always done that. It's always worked for me. And I did it this time. You know, you're not welcome. This is not your space. You need to leave. Get off my land. Get off my. This is not yours. This is my energy. This is my space, and it worked. Which is
it could have just been a passerby, you know, like something trying to sense what kind of energy you'd reciprocate to it. You know what I mean? Like testing it out. Is she gonna get, you know, like
scared?
Because I do believe in the energy vampires. You know, they're not necessarily always physical, but it'll literally see like, oh, what kind of person am I dealing with? Am I dealing with someone I can, you know, draw from, or and you're like, nah, dude, just get out. And it's like, wow, I'm not getting much out of this.
Make that noise with a fear factor, so you can see a spiritual opening, you know, to attack.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't having any of that. Like, and I got mad. I mean, that's another thing. It's like when after the initial, like, what was that? Off, I got really angry. I mean, I was in my living room, like yelling at nothing. You know, essentially, I was angry. Which, you know, not the greatest emotion to be.
Well, you know, whenever you have, and this is something that people need to understand, you know, be ordering someone out of your house, you know, whether it's a human or a spirit, whatever, it is a legal thing, because if someone comes into your domicile in every state in the country, you can order them out of your house. Unless now in some states and in some wacky cities, like the goofy one I'm living in, they can live in your house for a couple of days and then they're just squatting, and it's like, okay. Yeah. I would make their life very uncomfortable. They would not want to, because I did this, and it's actually funny. You were burning Palo Santo. There was a place called Palo Santos, and me and my brother, there was a veteran. I felt terrible for the guy. He was an African-American guy. He was a war veteran, like Abe. He was in Iraq. He comes there. They give him a place to live, and there's a guy squatting in his apartment selling crack. And so he told me and my brother, well, I ain't finna leave. And I was like, okay. But after, you know, someone gets, you know, trips and falls down the stairs and gets thrown on the concrete or whatever on accident, eventually enough accidents, they'll leave. So, you know, I wasn't going to let a war veteran just sit there and be terrorized by this guy and his homies because he was just squatting. And PD's like, well, you know, he's got rights now because he's been there for 2 days. I'm like, yeah, he broke in before we started the account and he's living up there. But this apartment is assigned to this man. And this guy is a veteran. He was wounded in combat, got a Purple Heart. And he's supposed to sit down in his steps while this dude parties and drinks all night and sells crack? I don't think so. But you have a legal right in your apartment, your house, your domicile, that they cannot be on your property. And so you order them off. It is a legal binding. Now, Rick Atcherstein, I call him a demonologist. He doesn't call himself that, but that's what he is. Very well-read guy. He's been on the show. He's been to my house. And Rick, he talks about it on one of the shows we did together. It's a legal binding thing. They don't have any right to sit in your domicile. It doesn't matter. And so this is what I do. And I don't know how you approach it, Monica. You can maybe do it your own way, whatever. But what I do is I ask them, you know, in this very clearly. You know, I don't ask them. I order them, I should say. In the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. You have no power here and you have no business here with me, my family, or anything in my house. You must leave. Then you got to go out and do it in the yard too, because that is your property line and you have to get them off of it. And you have to repeat it several times, and you repeat it several times, but you continue very forcefully. In the name of Christ, I demand that you leave. You have no power here. You have no right to be here. I did not invite you here. You are not welcome here. That is a legally binding thing.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. And also, when they're trying to spiritually attack you, when you're out doing your investigations, If you're being overwhelmed spiritually, you do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You take authority over it. You tie bind your getting Jesus Christ's name and tell them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have to say it numerous times, because sometimes they keep on coming in numbers because they want to drain your energy.
Yep.
So, but the thing when that's happening is not be afraid. Place Jesus Christ first, and you can overcome whatever's there.
Oh yeah.
Whether
my mom taught me that like when I was very young to do that. And there was a time like in a sleep paralysis episode that I was having that I was being attacked spiritually. This thing came at me out of like a dark area and hit me so hard in my sleep paralysis that I never had anything like that happen before when I'd slip in and out of sleep paralysis. But it was pushing, like I could feel it like pushing my face into the pillow, and it had its arm like across my shoulders. And it was just like forcing me down, and I could feel it trying to sink into my body. And I remember being just terrified because, you know, I wasn't like my spirit wasn't out of my body. Like sometimes it would do in sleep paralysis. I'd slip out and it would freak me out because I understand once you leave, right, you go into astral or whatever you want to call it, you're leaving your body vulnerable to something slipping in there while you're out. And I hadn't left my body, but this thing, I could feel it trying to sink into me. And I remember, you know, as it's pushing, it's running. I mean, it was saying these horrible things in my mind, like it was talking to me and
showing you images, pictures.
It didn't really show me pictures, but it was like like somebody talking in my ear, but I wasn't hearing it. You know, it was like an inner voice, but it wasn't my typical inner voice. If that sounds, if you understand what I'm saying, and but it was saying horrible things to me. And the whole time it's doing that, I can feel it trying to sink into me, and I'm pushing back with like, you know, spiritually, like just pushing back with all of my might, until I was able to move enough to like come out of the sleep paralysis. And what's interesting in that case is that house had very negative spirits in it. This even happened.
I keep selenite and black tourmaline with me. That protects me from negative energies. I even sleep with it around my neck, and I sleep like a baby. You know,
Right.
I've had sleep paralysis before, and you know that's what people don't understand, that the succubus and the incubus, when they attack, like she said, they can attack you because they keep you distracted in your dream, and your body's left by itself. So when your body's left by yourself, that's when they're draining your energy. Where sometimes you might wake up with hickey-like marks, scratches, bite marks, when they're attacking you in that manner. You know, they're attacking the body. You know, you rebuke them through Jesus Christ's name, but I found out that if you don't want to have those kind of problems, you have to protect and find a different way, or find a way to protect your home or your room where you sleep. So I keep selenite and black tourmaline for whoever has sleep paralysis or sleepwalking,
Right.
because that's what they do. Where they took over your body. It's happened to me where I was having a dream that I was walking with an axe, right? And I'm in the sleep paralysis dream. When I freaking wake up, man, I'm dragging my left leg and I have the bat in my hand, and I will awake out in the park area. So whatever it was that took over my body made me walk from inside my house all the way to the park area. And that's where I woke up. It felt like if I was in the dream, like I was carrying an axe. When I wake up, I'm carrying my bat and I'm dragging the bat on the ground. And I woke up in the middle of the park. So I did the sign of the cross, you know, and I went back home. But they have those capabilities. That's why you get sleepwalking, where people get caught sleepwalking because they took over the body in that manner. So, I just wanted to share that.
I mean, and that's true. That's why I don't like to go into, I try to stop it. But this was years. I mean, I was 19.
Yes.
And this was a long time ago. But like I said, the house that this happened in was terribly haunted. I mean, it was my first, he was my boyfriend at the time. It was my first husband's house. And I understand why there were negative spirits there. But after this happened to me, like not even 2 weeks later, his sister's boyfriend, who would, you know, later become my brother-in-law, they ended up getting married. He had a similar attack in his sleep, and he didn't have it just like physically assault him and like try to sink in. He had what you were talking about with the dream, where it shows you these horrible images, and the whole time he said it was like somebody had him by the back of the head and was leading him through the house, and in every room of the house was one of us, just like blood everywhere, just completely massacred. And it was telling him, if you don't get out, if all of you don't leave, this is what's going to happen to you. And he was having an episode. They ended up having to call 911 while this was going on, and he had to get taken to the hospital because he was having, you know, an episode. But during this is when he was having this thing show him everything around the house.
Yeah, they're demonic. They're demon. They're demonic in nature, succubus, incubus, and they can possess also, you know, but they work a different way. It's kind of like you work hard, like Brother Josh, you know, working with he works, and then he does his group. And when it's time to sleep, well, that's what's waiting for you, because they don't want you to rest. You know, they don't want you to rest your body. So you go into this dreamlike world state where all these things are happening, you know, and they control that. I remember I woken up where I wake up from being spiritually attacked in nature, and I hear the succubus and incubus outside my home where they're chanting a different language. So I get down on my knees, and that's what a lot of people don't do. I get down and go straight into prayer, and I start fighting spiritually, and I tell them you're not allowed to come in my home, you know. But this one I used to live in Elms Grove. Nothing like that has happened here. Well, but the only thing is here in this room where I'm at, the previous owner passed away in here, right? So the first day that I moved in here, I'm laying down, and I hear slippers, like house slippers, going around the bed, and I feel somebody touching me on my arm, on my arms, and my legs, and I'm just hearing the slippers going around the bed, and I say, you know what? You're not welcome here. Your time here is over.
Yeah.
You know, leave. You know, I took authority, and ever since then, all of that stopped. But
yeah, my mom actually, when I was a young man, before I got like my first, when I started moving out, she taught me like a prayer basically, but the summation of it is you rebuke it out, you cast it out in the name of Christ, cast everything off your property, away from it, and then you call upon the 4 archangels to post up at the 4 corners of your property to keep it from returning. Which is, I always thought that was a really cool concept, you know, I believe it, I do it, you know, and I think that's the reason why it's weird that, I don't know, she took her own advice, because apparently her place has got a bunch of spookies about it, but mine never really had that problem until I actually invited someone in that was carrying that with them, you know. But yeah, and then when they left, it left. So
yeah, and that is scary, because you can bring objects even into your home.
Yeah,
something attached to it. Yeah, and you don't understand that. Then that's scary.
Kind of like when we were touching down. I think it was a show or two back. I was doing a interview. I was on a different channel. This is when I very first started jumping on channels and stuff, and we're doing an interview with this individual, and he's like, I don't know why, you know, all this paranormal activity is happening, and sheets are getting pulled off of us in the middle of the night. They had like their house set up kind of like that movie Paranormal Activity, where it's a bunch of black and white cameras recording everything. I think personally it's a bunch of BS, but he's like, yeah, I just don't understand it. And then he's like, oh yeah, check out this chair, and it's like kind of like a miniature throne, and it's got pentagrams on it. It's got 666 on it. It's got, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, no clue. Why? It's weird.
Cool. Here, bro.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have bought a little box at a thrift store, you know, for like $5, and he played beautiful music, and he had a ballerina. I bought it home, and I placed it, and I played it before I went to sleep, because I was listening to the music and I fell asleep. When I freaking woke up, right above me was an Asian lady with white. She looked pale. She had red lipstick, and she was smiling at me. It scared the hell out of me.
I bet.
Following day, I take the little box, take it back to the thrift store. I put it back on the shelf where I bought it, and I told them that I didn't want it. I don't want the money. They can keep it. So as I'm going to go exit, the little box comes flying towards my head, and it stops and lands right in front of me. And the girl from the register is like, I guess something must not like you. So I'm glad I got rid of it, because I'm thinking if I would have kept it, things would have gotten worse. I mean, it threw the box at me, you know, tried to hit me in the face. So I'm glad I got rid of it. I don't know who bought it, but I learned my lesson of buying. I mean, I still go to the flea market sometimes, but you have to be careful, because it could be some kind of attachment on the items that you buy.
Hopefully they cleansed it before they brought it in their house.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Hey, which pulga do you go to? Because I've been looking for a good one to go and buy.
Well, I know they got a big pulga right there in Austin. There's a big one.
Oh yeah, the 290.
Where I live in Central Texas, it's just a little flea market in Bell County, you know, where I go to, which is in between by Belton going towards Killeen. But the one in Austin is pretty big. That's pretty
huge.
massive.
If you go there, the reason I don't go to that one, and Joe can probably attest to this, if I want to come out and have my truck on blocks, then I'll go to that one. You come out and you're like, oh my God.
Oh wow.
Dude, yeah. I used to love the one on 290 when I was a kid, because my grandpa, he used to always take me there. And it was just like one of those wholesome times in my life that I really held true and dear. But yeah, it did get pretty it did get pretty raunchy.
There were shootings, dude. There's a lot of people 90s. From Mexico, man. Like it's like
nothing but Mexicans there.
Yeah, the Mojave.
Well, they got one.
You go there, it's like, no, dude.
They got one there. So there's the 290 one. Then there's one that's like 812 and 183. That's a pretty big one right now.
Really? Where's that one at, Joe?
So like if you take 183 south, like you're going past the airport, and you hang a left on FM 812, it's like almost immediately on the right. And that thing's gotten pretty free, because whenever the 291 shut down for the pandemic or whatever, that became like the new hotspot. And they just opened up one in Bastrop, and it's literally like not even a quarter mile from the gas station. So like that thing is huge, dude. Like if I go to go hang out with Jen for a little bit at the gas station on like a Friday or Saturday night, like you're talking probably 200-300 cars in the parking lot easy.
Wow.
You know, like yeah, it's growing. It's getting big.
Yeah, I'd like to go to that one over there. I didn't know there was one there. I know there was one in between. Or no, it's outside of Kyle. But somebody just said something about Kyle Thrift. I don't know if that's the same one they're talking about. But I would like to go to one. I used to be really proficient with whips, like with a bull whip, and I could do like tricks and things like that, dude. And of course, you know, when you have friends come over and you know you're in your 20s and everybody's rowdy and drinking and doing other things. That's when you bust out the whip and start smacking everything with it. And they're like,
you just see you like doing the whip.
You'll be playing the song, Josh. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
Give the 375
like
pound, 6'4" guy the whip to play with and scare the hell out of everybody. You know, hey, but it's better than playing with the katanas. I mean, you know,
You'll be like the Raiders of the Lost Ark with a whip.
I actually had the neighbors years ago. Now, folks, this is something I'll tell you. This was years ago, but I got really, really, really out there, and I was in my yard playing around with a katana, you know, and spinning it around and doing all kinds of stuff.
Oh.
The backyard was like overgrown or whatever because I wasn't really home that much. And so I was in the front yard, and the police show up. And I'm like, I'm perfectly within my rights to be in my front yard with this sword, whatever. And they were like, yes, but you're in your underwear. And, and that is a true story. And so I was like, so I am. And I had told them, they were like, "Are you drunk or stoned or whatever?" And I was like, "I will not answer those questions. But I will go inside now with my sword over my shoulder." And and it's funny because I started talking to the cop about the Book of Seven Rings, and he was like, Miyamoto Musashi, and he was like, "Oh, it's pretty cool." Yeah, he goes, "Hey, put some pants on, man." I said, "Okay, we'll do that." And so I went inside, I put the sword up, and he was like, "You're pretty good with that." We were talking, and so the cops just said, "Look, it's no harm done. I mean, you're wearing underwear, but just the neighbors were kind of freaked out, So it'd be better if you just put some pants on." So I was like, "Okay." It wasn't like I was out there, with no clothes, but women walk around in bikinis and stuff, But I think I just forgot to put pants on that day. Is all it was.
Like one does. Just forget.
Yeah, I used to, like my friends when I quit smoking the devil's lettuce years ago, they were just like, "Dude, man, I don't know why you did that." I was like, "Because I want to be a functioning adult." Comes a time when you really just got to put away childish things, and not for most people, like they can do something in moderation or whatever, but I was doing it pretty regularly because I had severe anxiety. And I had some PTSD that was undiagnosed for some different things. And so I was self-medicating. Yeah. And so then I figured it out. And then it was like, well, done. And it was a spiritual assault on me at all times. And so I was living in a house that was haunted, and it wasn't helping my my frame of mind. So, yeah, I mean, So you're never going to see me go out into the front yard here in my neighborhood here. They would freak. They would freak. Dude, wave you have a stick on the ground. They're like, "Yeah, we're going to get you." So if somebody did that, it would be all over you'd be everywhere. It'd be bad. So, but when you're young like that, I was like 21, 22.
Oh, shit. I thought you were talking when you were a little kid. I was
No. No, I was 20.
I was fixing to say I used to dress up like that when I used to watch Batman and Robin on TV. I put a towel on my neck and run around in my Fruit of the Looms,
No, man,
but I was a kid.
Dude, I was doing this back when I was in my early 20s because I used to, because I worked I ran a nightclub, and it was like everybody that you're around is abnormal. I was watching a show about these guys that were in jail, and they were like, the abnormal becomes normal. And when you're in that environment, which is very caustic, and you're used to just being around people that are drunk and high all the time, and you're more sober than them, so you're thinking, "Shit, I got my shit together," and no, you're just dealing with people that are really drunk and high all the time, so you're not as drunk and high, so you think you got your shit together, but when you go out into the regular world, you're like, "Oh, this isn't how everybody acts. I'm offending people."
Yeah. So
I mean,
it's weird too, like even on the opposite side of it, like today my second oldest daughter, she walked the stage. She's getting her college degree.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so she walked the stage, and all these people, man, it's crazy. It's not like it used to be. Like, everyone would clap whenever people go across. Dude, like now they're bringing like bull horns, and I'm like, dude, the mental illness with these highly sober people is just frightening. I was like, dude, who brings a kick drum, to a freaking, graduation, and they're like just whooping and hollering. And I was like, man, this is why I need a drink. I can't deal with these people.
So what other activity is going on over there?
I really don't have much. I mean, that was obviously the most frightening thing that's happened to me here, because like I said, the energy in this.
But outside the area.
Yeah. So we can talk about like Lake Texoma specifically, because there's some crazy stuff going on around that. And like, for anybody who doesn't know, I think a lot of it starts with, when they created Lake Texoma, right? They dammed the Red River, and the Ouachita River and the Red River, flooded, created this. But there are towns underneath the water now, right? Because
Ooh.
they flooded. There are 4 towns that I know of that disappeared. And like 10 or 12 years ago, there was a drought out here, and the water receded to the point that it was exposing old gravestones. So I don't know that. I mean, of course, everybody's going to say, yes, they moved the graves, they did this, they did that. But there are a lot of instances in history where they said they did it and they didn't, right? Like Blue Light Cemetery down in Houston, you know, you get haunting. That's how you get ghosts.
Yeah, that's the one that Gaetano's trying to get me to go to, and I'm like, not feeling it, man. But he also wants me to sleep with the God helmet on and stuff. And I'm like,
heard that last night.
I was like, dude, he literally called me. He's like, hey, we got to buy the Amityville Horror House. And I'm like, okay, let me just call some friends. Let's get right on that. He goes, seriously, it's a good investment. I'm like, I don't want to have to be the one to go up there. You know, I said, are you going to go?
Oh, he'd go up there.
He's like, we can hire people to do that. And I'm like, yeah. I said, God, but at some point I'm going to have to be there in it. At some point, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to be in those haunted places because it's like, I know what happens. Stuff attaches itself, and then, you know,
especially Amityville, or like, I'm good.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, that whatever it was that attached itself to Anthony DeFeo hard, man.
Oh yeah,
it even followed him all the way into prison, like it, or at least a piece of it, a sliver of it.
You know what creeped me out the most was Jody, the little thing that she would see. The little pig demon.
When you said Jody, I was thinking of my friend Jody Cook. I was like, what did Jody do?
Oh no, I love Jody.
I just talked to him a couple days ago. I was like, what did Jody freak you out? How did he?
No, Jody doesn't freak me out. I might freak Jody out.
Jody messaged me the other day to show me that something that somebody had said, and I was like, and we just had a good laugh about it because the rumors are just so, you know, apparently I was in a grudge match with Barton Nunley or something, and I'm just like, what is it with these people? They can't find anything real, so they just got to make something up and then put it on some, you know.
They hear something and just run with it. It's ridiculous.
Well, this particular one's a troll. He's been making stuff up, but it's like, I told this one guy, I said, dude, you should be writing, you know, like what do you call that, fiction?
Fan fiction?
Yeah, you should write that. Like, you should make books and stuff. You come up with so much fantasy stuff. They're so good at it.
Might actually sell. That's a good idea. You just gave them a money-making idea.
Yeah. They could be like, well, I was trolling this guy, Josh Turner, and I just decided to start writing fiction because I'm so good at it. You know?
He gave me the idea.
Yeah.
Send him off with a smile, Josh.
Jody, you're talking about Jody the pig thing, that weird, yeah,
that thing. I mean, just because I remember reading the book way back when. The whole thing is creepy, and the fact that all of that took place over 28 days I just can't imagine being in that.
And then the original family also. It's just, and it goes back to the what was it? John Ketchum, the Ketchum and Kill 'em dude. It was like he massacred a bunch of Indians. Like, he was basically like an old school serial killer, and he killed. Well, that whole
there are rumors and legends that area at one time was inhabited by Wendigo, because look at the tribes that were there. And that's where the Wendigo, the term came from. It was from them. I mean, when you start to look at like the descent into madness that creates a killer, it is an attachment from what we were talking about earlier. The disembodied spirits that are the evil spirits of the earth, evil for all time, and they attach themselves. Now, here's one for you. You know, we're talking about Lake Texoma. You know, one of the Choctaw there had told me and several of us that were there visiting, you know, that there was an evil that was there that would attach itself to the people and would create this chaos or whatever, and that there were actually creatures that were actually just there from there. They were from which I told him, I think they were inner earth. He didn't really say yes or no, but he didn't say no, I don't believe that, but he was listening. But that there were these beings that were already there, that were not human beings. I think he was referring to a Bigfoot type creature, but that the spirit of this this violent demon that was released through all of this, you know, damming up the river and doing all these things on Indian land that they should not have done, according to him. And it released that energy of this demonic entity, and it possessed those beings to be not. They went from being like, you know, just being there, they're just there, kind of like predators, to being the wholly demonic.
Right.
Like, can Bigfoot be possessed of a demon, even though it's part demon, you know, by its birth? Some people would argue that, but like I said, there's different levels. When you start reading some of these ancient texts where the third and fourth generations of these beings go back and they start to breed with the second generation of the beings and create another branch that becomes even more evil and more virulent. And the more you throw in there together, the more trouble you're going to get. It's just the truth. I mean, you're going to get some sort of wacky. There's inbreeding that creates insanity. But there's too much outbreeding that does it too. Now, that's something in our society people don't want to talk about, because then it borders on you sounding like you're being racist. But I'm being honest. Now, Rod Carew, one of my favorite baseball players of all time, his daughter, when she got really ill, they couldn't find donors for her because she had 3 or 4 different, you know, she had Asiatic, she had Caribbean islands, she had African American, she had all these different races, she had Caucasian. So it was hard for her to get the help she needed. But that is what happens, though, too. Too much outbreeding and being like, you know, every type of race on earth, and then, you know, you have issues because you don't know what is going to pop up, what kind of sickness can pop up, whether it's physical or mental or spiritual. And so, and I'm not saying this trying to sound like a bigot or whatever. I'm saying, though, that is the case. Now, if it's pretty cut and dry, you know, it's like you're this and you're that, you know, you got those two options there. But if you're this, that, and all this other stuff, that's when stuff starts to get messed up. Like, I have a dog that's living proof of that. She was overbred and everything else, and she looks like a mishmash, chimeric little thing. I love her to death. Her name's Baby. But she's got all kinds of health issues, you know, and that is what happens. So, you know, like with me, if you take what I got, I'm on my mom's side, I'm a Hispanic, right? But it's really just a Spaniard and it's Comanche. There's not a whole lot else going on there. My dad's side's Cossack and Scotch Irish. That's pretty much it. Now you take those 4 races and you're like, oh my God, those are some of the most warlike people. Probably shouldn't have put them all together into one human being, because you're going to have issues. But, you know, you can see where it comes from. I mean, you know, but it's funny. Somebody was talking to me the other day about a person. They said, well, I'm French, so really we're laid back and this and that. I was like, the hell you are. I was like, have you studied your history? Do you know how many wars you were in? Like the Huguenots? I mean, I was like, your people were some of the most warlike people, going all the way back to the Gauls. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, how much French are you? She's like, my mother's from there and my dad's half. I said, oh, well, that's probably why the French were not pussies either. They always try to make them out like they're a bunch of weak ass. Oh, they had a gun and they dropped it. They lost 40,000 men covering the British retreat. Okay. It was at Dunkirk. People don't talk about that. The Germans inflicted 39,900 and something French soldiers died so that the British could run back to their island. No offense to the Brits, but they're always given a pass like they're these heroic people. And they did fight heroically later, but Churchill had to come out and say, look, victories are not achieved by successful retreats. I mean, he had to say that because everybody's like, yay, we made it back to the island, yay. Well, the French all died, but yay, we're here. And then Churchill had to say, calm down, you know, we still have to fight the Germans that are bombing the hell out of us because we're not going to achieve victory by running away. So, yes, we had a successful retreat. That's not cause for celebration. So the French, they were not able to flee across the ocean and run away. They had to sit there and fight tooth and nail against the the might of the Wehrmacht, which to me was the most powerful army that the earth has ever seen. I don't give a shit what people say about Russia did this, Russia. Russia didn't do anything without thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars that was given to them to build their military, because their factories were knocked into shit, and the Germans were at Moscow's doorstep, literally 11 miles from Moscow, and they were bombing the hell out of them. And because the Allies gave them everything, tons and tons and tons of supplies, and the Japanese could not, fight the other end. Long story short, that's why the Germans lost. But they pinned them down at Leningrad and Stalingrad for 2 years. So when you look at history, it could have been very different. And now I don't pick sides when it comes to Germany and Russia. I don't care what anybody says. The communists killed way more people, way more people. And the NKVD was doing what it was doing long before the Germans came around to even do any of that. And all the concentration camps in the East were former Soviet concentration camps that the Germans took over. They did not build one in the East. Treblinka, Treblinka, those were all there before the Germans showed up. And that was the NKVD mass murdering people. Not just the Jews, but Christians. They were killing Christians because they didn't believe in the church. So they were trying to wipe it out. They were killing everyone. There was a guy who wrote a book, and I don't even remember the name of it. I read pieces of it. What was the book? It was an audio book, and I was trying to listen to it. I was driving to Colorado years ago, and the guy was in the gulag, and he said every race of mankind was represented in those gulags in the Soviet Union. He said every country on earth had at least a handful of people in those gulags. He said, I watched Asians, Africans, and everything in between die in those gulags. I mean, it was horrific, and they worked you to death, and then when you could no longer work, they killed you. So there is a part of history that will never be really explored by the powers that be, because that would force them to take a look at themselves and say, hey, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we didn't do what we should have done, which is what Patton said we should have done, and was kick the shit out of them after we were done. We should have rearmed Germany to go in there and say, continue your war, but we're in charge. And then when they're finished, then we sort it all out. You did bad, whatever. But let them kill each other and figure it out, because you had two of the most evilest regimes that have ever lived, and everybody wants to pick a side and say that the Germans were the bad guys. Yeah, they were bad, but the Soviets, if people only knew, really knew the level of depravity that the communists inflicted upon the earth with Mao Zedong, with Pol Pot, with this other fool, Stalin, they would understand that they killed 50-something million more people than Germans. It's unbelievable. But everybody wants to throw around that Nazi because it sounds, oh, Nazi. And then everybody's saying that everybody's a Nazi, when in reality, the communists were the reason that the Nazis were even created, because Hitler would never have been able to fool all those people if communism wasn't taking hold in Germany. Because it was taking hold in Germany, he was able to convince all these people that the boogeyman is at our doorstep, and they were. And so that's how everything got, twisted or whatever. What sickens me, though, is that when they went into Poland and they carved it up, that Churchill, being the fat little pig that he was, he had no interest in fighting the Soviet Union. He had everything to gain by fighting against Hitler. So he's like, we will fight against Hitler. What about Joseph Stalin? Like I said, Hitler. Well, Joseph Stalin's killing millions of people. Hitler. Okay, fine, whatever. We're going to fight Hitler. But we're not going to fight the Soviets, who also invaded Poland from the north and carved it up. And nobody really helped Poland. They just let them go down, and they just talked a big game, and they said, we're going to go after Germany. But they didn't do anything about the Soviet Union. And throughout the war, until Hitler invaded, well, not Hitler, but the Germans themselves, whatever, and their allies, when they invaded Russia, that is when they released Poland. They were driven out of Poland, but they damn near cleaned northern Poland out. And I'm not joking. They committed genocide against the Poles. To this day, there's embitterment between the Poles and the Russians, and there always will be. There's really not between the Germans and the Poles, but there is between the Russians and the Poles, because they nearly killed everybody. They were wiping them out. And now Germany had southern Poland. They weren't concerned with what was going on in the north. When they rolled through the north, there's a book. One of those SS divisions, Das Reich, went in and they were blown away by the lack of people because the Soviets had been at work killing everyone. And so it's the truth. I mean, it is unbelievable when you read what is real and what has happened, what really happened. It's appalling. You would not believe that the atrocities that the NKVD and the Soviet Union inflicted upon people. And if you want to go to a truly scary place, I know a lady that she's originally from Russia, and she went into some of these defunct gulags. And she said when she went into these places that things were touching her arms and legs and pulling her hair.
Sure.
And things were screaming in her ear in pain. And then she could it was so much. There was a psychic there with her who was from Latvia. And she said she fainted because the gulags, so many people died in those gulags. And so it is something that I will probably talk about on Rumble, and I will, so I don't get demonetized talking about it here because it's so bad. But people do not understand. And if you really would read, folks, and understand, what these, it's crazy, man. But now Russia's not Russia then, and Germany is not Germany then, so things are different. Today's friend is tomorrow's enemy, and we all know that. But at the time, the Soviet regime, along with Red China, two of the worst powers that ever existed, at least as far as our known history. I believe they channeled something that comes from a darker, me and Chris Garetano had a long talk about this with the Lovecraft, something Lovecraftian. They channeled into the darkness of the inner earth. Because when the world goes to war on the surface, imagine what's happening below us. Because it says, as above as below. When the Iliad was written, Homer, when he talks about the gods being at war, well, he wasn't joking. It was full tilt. And the gods would back up one side or the other, and they would fight, and so would the people. Because the gods were these demigods. They were the people that were created from the Nephilim and the unholy trinities. I mean, the unholiness, from their father, Satan and the beast and the false prophet. They've been hard at work on this earth for a long, long time. And it's going to keep happening. And you see it everywhere from every facet of our lives. They're trying to normalize things that aren't even fit for animals. My animals would not do the things that they want to normalize. And if we're willing to allow them, pedophilia, cannibalism, every type of depravity you can imagine, indoctrination on a scale that you would not believe, straight out of the pages of Mao's Red Book. Go read that Red Book, but understand, put your thinking cap on, learn what the enemy is saying and what they're doing. Learn, understand what they're all about. Don't buy into it. I've read the Book of Mormon. I've read the Book of Knowledge from the what do you call them, the Jehovah's Witnesses. That doesn't mean you become one. You're just reading it. Like I've read Sitchin's books, and some of what he says makes sense, but I'm not a Sitchinian or whatever the hell that dumb Aggie says. Look, the bottom line is the truth. People are stupid, and they don't want to learn. They're like, I'm happy with this book here, and it's like, well, then stay ignorant. And then they want to pop off and comment about things that they have no idea about. When it really pisses me off when they talk about the French, because the French were hardcore, really, really tough people. They were very powerful people. And one thing they did when they came to the New World that the British didn't do, and none of the other Europeans did, the Spanish didn't do it either. They were very disrespectful. The French were at peace with the natives. The French were the natives' friends. The natives liked the French because the French gave them a fair trade. Mm-hmm. You give me this, I give you that. There was none of this ripping them off and giving them wampum and, whatever, brandy. No, dude, there wasn't none of that. The French were very humble when they came here. So were the Germans. There are stories of the Comanches here in Texas raiding and destroying everything the Anglos had, everything the Mexicans had, everything the Spaniards had, and not touching the French or the Germans. leaving them be because those people lived in peace with them. I'm telling you the absolute truth. They never burned Fredericksburg. They never burned Schulenburg. And they never touched New Braunfels. Those are all German communities, and the Comanches never did it. But they burned and destroyed Port Lavaca, which was a Spanish port. They destroyed Victoria. They burned Austin, which was an anglicized place. They destroyed everywhere, but they didn't hurt the Germans because the Germans were living in peace with them, and so were the French, which we could all take a lesson from that, But later on, things happen, things get messed up. The Germans didn't have colonies either. They didn't go to the Congo and kill billions of people like the king from Belgium. They didn't do those things. So when they went to Africa, they were treated as liberators. And people don't understand that. They don't grasp the history. They don't really understand. Now, Charles Center says Hitler and his inner circle believed in the occult and the paranormal. Yeah, they did.
They did.
But so did every leader on earth. You don't think Stalin was doing the same thing? They all were. Hitler was not a good guy. I'm not saying he was. But he took over as a spy. He didn't create the Nazi movement. That was Otto and Gregor Strasser, and he seized it as a spy of the Weimar Republic, who was also, they were being paid by the Allies. They wanted a war. They wanted it, and I think his job was to create one. That's what I think. That's my opinion, and all that blood was a sacrifice.
Yeah.
I believe it was. My opinion, but anyway, I digress. What we were talking about, I just don't agree with the way that they characterize certain things. Like these people, they make jokes and they say things and make little funny memes when they don't know jack about anything. And I'm always appalled at some of the stupidity that comes out of people's mouths because they half truths, half-assed knowledge of history. They don't know history because they don't read it. They don't know, or they'll read one book and be like, "I figured it out." Why don't you others?
That's so many people.
Yeah, they'll read or they'll read half a book and they'll be like, "I'm reading a book," and they want you to know about it. You can tell those are people that don't read because they're all impressed with themselves because they've read half a book, and they want to call and talk about it. It's like, "I'm reading a book," and you're like, "Oh yeah, really? What is it?" "Well, it's green eggs and ham. I'm almost through it." It's pretty interesting. I can tell you this: I won't even on a train or a bus or a plane. But when I'm finished with the book, I'll tell you how it comes out. A guy named Dr. Swayze. I think he's probably
Swayze. It's Patrick Swayze's brother, Dr. Swayze.
Dr. Swayze. I think Dr. Swayze wrote it. He's some kind of parapsychologist. It's funny. I had a guy trying to explain to me about Carl Jung. He was telling me, he goes, he was Sigmund Freud's understudy. His name was Carl Jung. And I said, "You've never heard his name said before." This is my friend of a friend. He's not really my friend. He's a guy at the gym. And what do you expect? I mean, the guy just lifts weights all the time, does steroids. He doesn't care. And I said, "You've never heard his name. He's a very famous psychiatrist." And I was like, "He had a falling out with Freud." "Why is that?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to talk about it in mixed company, but go read what he says about Freud." He says, "Well, that's amazing. I'm gonna check that out when I'm done." And he's like, "How do you say his name?" I said, "Jung." And he was like, "The J is silent?" I said, "Yes, silent." It's Carl.
Well, in German, J's are pronounced Y.
Yeah, but it's silent in the way that well, he's this. You're dealing with somebody who don't even bother.
Yes.
I could say in Spanish it's ha, and in German it's wa. Whatever. They're not going to understand, and it doesn't matter why. This person's not going to go learn German. They're going to learn how to take more juice and get bigger. I mean, what he does. I mean, that's kind of his thing. And he doesn't watch my show. Like, he tried to tell me one day, he's like, "What's your show called again?" I was like, "For the 5th time, Alex." Name's Alex. And so I just made up some crap. I said, "Paranormal Studies of the Universe." And then the next time I see him, I'm like, "Did you check it out?" He goes, "Oh yeah. I was like, "Paranormal Studies, right?" Yeah. Paranormal Studies of the Universe, sure. Guy's never gonna. He doesn't know what we're saying. I could sit here and say, "Alex, you're a big juice head, and you're never gonna learn anything." And his name is not Carl Jung. And then what's he gonna do if he watches? What is he gonna do? He gonna beat me up?
Yeah.
Crap.
It's like people who are like, "Man, I love Tolkien," and I'm like, "Ah, dude, you read Tolkien?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." Dude, those movies are great.
The movies. I'm reading the books, dude. He goes,
Yeah, I'm talking about the book. Yeah, no, it's
It
great.
goes way beyond the movie.
That's the whole, Tolkien, when he talked about the Middle Earth and Inner Earth and all that, dude, he was on to something.
Yeah.
And those troglodyte, the orcs, they're going like, dude, what is that? I mean,
Hobbits
he knew
too.
something, man.
Yeah, Hobbits definitely, man. That to me, that screams Fae to me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, the orcs are corrupted elves.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you look at
Like
the elves
yeah.
as like angels, and the orcs
like
are
Nephilim elves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you figured that out too, and then when you look at like the different another thing too, like Jack London, when people talk about the Call of the Wild, or they talk about White Fang, the communists, they always want to claim Jack London as one of their own. I said that was before communism was a thing, and I'm like, I guarantee you, he would not have been on your side. Okay, pragmatism and everything else, but the guy had a strong sense of spirituality, which they don't possess. They want to stamp out spirituality to a point where it's there's no religion at all. There's not even, at least now we have the freedom to debate religion. Like I think me and Abe and Joe, and Monica, we're all kind of on the same team when it comes to religion. But people want to, you're not even allowed to debate it in some countries. Yeah. Like in communist countries, it's like there's nothing. Animals mean nothing. People, nothing. You're all just meat puppets. That's it. And everything is rest, and so they would kill people like us. If me and Abe went out there and started trying to tell people about God or whatever, they'd kill us. And, here's another thing too, folks. People were talking about him and his crystals. This is a big piece of selenite right here. Oh, kidding. But seriously,
that protects you. Selenite will bring the guardian angels and the angels to assist you spiritually. I keep selenite on my window, and I the black tourmaline. I got raw pieces, and I keep them there.
Tourmaline's
when I
good
moved in
too,
here,
and it's
I told you about the story of the lady. I go here banging on the wall, and there's maybe 5 feet in between the wall to the fence. So something was coming and banging into the window, like real hard. Ever since I put the selenite and the black tourmaline there, it stopped.
Yeah, you know why? Because it disrupts vibration. Now, here's what somebody said. I have a friend. His place is called Mozart's. Anthony, if you're listening, or Nelly, if y'all are listening, what's it called? Mozart's. He's a really cool. He's a Kurdish guy. But I bought, for the first conference, I gave away a bunch of these little deals for the conference. But he sold me this. I mean, he gives me everything for dirt cheap because I really like that guy in his place. Anatolian Breezes is what it's called, but it was called Mozart something before that. Now it's called Anatolian Breezes. But nothing but stuff like that. The Turkish lamps, I have several of them. And there's all these different types of I have obsidian, I have all these different tourmaline, selenite. There's so many different types of crystal. And people think of it as it's some kind of new agey, weird, goofy, whatever. Bottom line is this: it's all vibration. Everything is vibration. Ron Moorhead said it at the conference. He said it in one of the deals we were in one day. It's all vibration. Everything is vibration. And so these things, they create vibration that attract good. And then, they deflect the negative. So no, it's not some hokey pokey, weird, new agey stuff, because I'm not into new agey stuff. It is real. It's reality. And there are vibrations. Everything is
frequency and vibration.
Yeah. So that's basically what it is, man.
I keep all my cellulite in my love handles back here.
Cellulite. I got that. Hold on. I got plenty of cellulite, man. Actually, I'm happy. I don't have cellulite, but I don't have the visceral fat either. That's the thing that really gets you, folks. I'm going to say this again, and you're going to think I'm crazy. Take cold showers. It's really good for your skin. It'll help you look younger, feel younger. and it'll invigorate you. And it also stops the visceral fat from hiding in your body, which is way worse. You know, people who have the big bellies and they're hard, that is very bad for you. It's very, very unhealthy. It sounds goofy, but it's better to have a jiggly belly than a hard, firm, big belly, because that means the fat is harder and it's down inside. The brown fat that sits on the surface can be burned and used quicker, and it can gotten rid of. That is the truth. I'm telling you. So you don't want that hard, visceral fat on you, and the cold will really, really help that. So just letting people know. This is what I do. Take like a bottle of water. Well, this is a very bad example because it's very big. You know, a bottle, like a Ozarka bottle or something, you know, and freeze it. And then put it on the back of the neck every other day for 20 minutes. And Joe, we've talked about this. And it restarts your body, and then take a cold shower for 3 to 5 minutes. You can do it a little longer. And then do the breathing, the Wim Hof, you know, I can do up to 3 minutes now. It's really good stuff. And those crystals really do work. And it's not like you're sitting there going, hey man, you know, people get this crazy idea of what that is. They have no clue.
No,
it's
that's
vibration
true.
and cleansing. It really does cleanse your body.
Breathing, did you say?
Yeah. Wim Hof.
I haven't heard of that.
It's called the Wim Hof. I've said it before. You need to pay attention. Look, Monica.
There you go, folks.
Sorry, I was reading the chats.
Who cares what those people have to say?
Here you go, folks, for the haters.
What is that? What you got?
All this brace. I got citrine, smoky quartz.
Oh yeah.
All kinds of different sodalite. All kinds of different minerals. But I got a raw piece here that has got black tourmaline in it. You see that? It's a mixture, and it's got black tourmaline also, and I keep it by the windows and stuff like that. Or if I feel a certain way, you know, I'll put a palm. I got palm stones that I'll hold in my hands just to relax, you know.
Where do you get yours at?
I got my friend. His name is Joe Hopes. Joe Hoppes on Facebook. Cactus moon crystals, and he sells stuff online real cheap. He's a good guy. You know, he's a single father. You know, maybe I'll put a plug for him because I always share his lives, and he sells good deals at, you know, $3, $5, $10, real good deals. You know, he sells spheres, he sells all kinds of stuff. You know, but he always gives me good deals. That's what I deal with a couple of people. But his name is Joe Hopes. You know, I help him out because I used to be a single father raising my son. So, you know, I know how it is, how hard it is. His daughter's young, so I support him as a friend, you know, and I buy minerals off from him, try to get something from him every month, you know. But he's got palm stones, he's got spheres, towers, all kinds of stuff. And he's always giving good deals, you know.
Yeah, send me his information. Joe, tomorrow.
I'll get his link and I'll place it on Paranormal Roundtable or send it to you, whichever you like.
Tomorrow, Joe, we need to get in touch with your friend so that we can set something up to do an investigation, because I would love to do that. And I will invite you, Abe, and Monica to come down if you want.
Sure.
And we need to go investigate. There's 3 spots I kind of want to hit. I need to talk to David Weatherly and see if he's still interested in going. He said in the spring when it warmed up, you know, we could go to the Devil's Backbone. I was not interested in going there in the cold because it gets 10, 12 degrees colder there in those valleys than it is in the city. So if it's 40 here, it's in the 30s over there. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that crap, tromping around out there in that cold. But yeah, I was thinking about it. We could do an investigation. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah. But what about the area we were talking about, Monica, the Texoma area? Have you gotten reports of Bigfoot, Dogman up there?
Yeah. So there are a lot of reports of Bigfoot in the area, specifically around the Hagerman Wildlife Refuge.
Oh yeah. Which
I go to a lot with my family. Like we'll just hike the trails back in there because it's beautiful, obviously. But there are some reports out there of a lot of dogs like getting snatched off the surrounding properties and just killed. And there's one specifically I can think of, right? And it's one person who's relaying all of these stories, these three that I'm going to say. Like their first initial sighting was down on the lake shore, and this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it wasn't like an incredible thing. Just she and her friend were sitting down by the lake, and she happened to notice some movement kind of off to the side, and just outside of the tree line, there were 3 Bigfoot walking around. 3 different sizes. Maybe it was a family unit, who knows? But there were 3 different sized Bigfoot walking around. She pointed it out to her friend, and you know, like, do you see this too? Am I going crazy? And the friend said, yeah, I see it. And they, you know, they split. They got out of there. And near the area, she had another friend who had a dog that was chained up, like near where she saw this. She had a friend that had his dog outside, chained to the porch, right? Chained to the deck. And the dog went nuts one night, just going nuts. Pit bull, you know, by the time they get out there, the barking had stopped, just blah, 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 stops dead. The dog's gone. The chain's broken. And they find the dog's body maybe 300 feet away off in the woods, and his head is missing. He's been disemboweled, the poor thing. But there's a lot of stories of dogs similarly, like getting snatched off of chains. A child relative of this witness, you know, their home was near the tree line. He woke up one night with something with red eyes looking at him through the window. Right. And with all the Bigfoot reports, I mean, my mind as a researcher is like obviously connecting all those dots. But there's also stories of like a Dogman out there. And I did hear a story about, and I'm sure other people have heard this pretty popular story. There was a man and his brother-in-law, and they were out checking their trot lines off of Lake Texoma, right? It's got all these branches on it. If you've never seen it, it's got a lot of branches coming off of it. And he was down on one of those branches, like checking the lines. And they had this little skiff with the nothing motor, just, you know, puttering out there to check these lines. And as they're sitting there, they hear this commotion off in the bushes. And this werewolf, as he described it, comes out and is just walking up and down the shoreline, just tearing stuff up, obviously agitated. They're in the area. They can't get their motor to start. And as they're freaking out, they're drifting closer and closer to the shoreline where this thing is. You know, and, you know, eventually, like, this guy's thinking we're going to die. His brother finally gets the motor started, and they, you know, motor on out of there. But even there's things like that going on in the area. And I believe it. I mean, if you've ever spent time around Lake Texoma, there's a lot of like pretty thick woods going on up in there. Have you ever spent time there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know exactly like where some of these encounters have happened. Walked through that area years and years ago, but it's been a while. But yeah, not deep into the woods though. I'm not gonna lie to you, I have not gone deep into those woods because it's scary, and there's some places there that I would not want to be. There have been multiple Bigfoot and Dogman encounters in that area. And some of the Choctaw actually believe that they're not just Dogman. Like people think they're Dogman. They kind of laugh at that because they're something else. Mm-hmm. The term Dogman is really kind of silly. They think it's some kind of race of Dogman people that run around out there or whatever. No, they're evil, dude. I mean, and the ones that are there are definitely evil. And I know
skinwalkers.
Skinwalkers, yeah.
Sounds like to me.
Yeah, we were on. Abe was on the same season that I was. It was on These Woods Are Haunted with what's his name, Michael Sheehan. He was the producer. Nice guy, friend of mine. But that there was a couple of guys that were on Matt Imsh's show the other day on Planet 412, and they had their encounter. I think the season before that I was on that show, and that one was terrifying, and it happened at Lake Texoma.
Yeah, it's probably the same story. I mean, it's a pretty popular story because I remember when I first heard it, I was just, very fixated on it because it's not far from me.
Yeah, there's another one too. There was the bridge right there.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was walking along that bridge late at night, and something came on the other side of the bridge. I got a story. The guy that gave me the story, his nickname is Boog, but he gave me a story. He goes, "Look, I'm not supposed to be. I was fishing, and he goes, and something came up onto the bridge, and he's like, and at first it was squatted down, and he couldn't really make out what it was." And I'll talk about it on the show. But anyway, it was pretty intense, and he took off running and even threw his pole and the didn't care. But you're not supposed to be doing what he was doing, But I mean, he goes, it was like 2 a.m. I didn't think anybody would be out there, And so he was on the edge of one side of the bridge, and this thing came on the other side. And I said, thank God it was up far on the other side, and you were able to run and get your vehicle. But could have been bad. Could have been real bad. But he said it looked wolf-like.
There are, goat man stories in this area. Because I have a friend that grew up here. I obviously didn't grow up here. And he told me, he's like, you don't hear them often, but every now and then there'll be a story popping up where somebody sees one. And I don't know why they're always around bridges, but he had driven me out to some creepy bridge in the middle of nowhere and was, telling me about how there was a goat man sighting there.
Goat man, a lot of goat man in the bridges. It's goes back to the Billy Goat's gruff.
I know, right? That's what I thought.
Well, I looked at there was a lady from Germany, or she was not from Germany. She was from, Luxembourg, but it's Germany, whatever. But she sent me, her grandmother was Austrian. Mm-hmm. But she said that she had a book, and she's like, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to show it to you. And she sent me and Armando, Anthony, Tony, like the pictures of it or whatever. We have them somewhere. And they were of these anthropomorphic creatures. Mm-hmm. And every fairy tale in that book from the 14th century was basically like the wolf was a werewolf, the goats were a goat man. None of it was like, like an actual animal. They were like anthropomorphic, everything. So, you got to wonder, like, what is that, and why, the Billy Goat's gruff. Of course, the story was these goat man creatures. It wasn't some goat. Yeah, the troll looks like a reptilian. I mean, what were these people seeing? These early Europeans back then, that they were, this comes from a time before anybody came to the New World. There was just Mesoamerica was full of natives. And the Europeans hadn't even been thought of to come here yet. And so this book is very old, and it's very hard to get the pictures, to get the book open, she said, but it was old book.
That's interesting.
Falling apart. It was big too, man. You could see it was like huge. It was like, like 1.5 foot tall. Crazy.
Animal man hybrid things in a lot of cultures around the world, which is interesting, right? It's not just the fairy tales out of Europe. There's the Egyptian gods, and the Aztecs had deities that were half. Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of like y'all talking about bridges, and I think about ridges or cliffs. I think me and you were talking about how those natives that are shapeshifter skinwalkers, they were just into hunting animals. So the way they will hunt animals or hunt somebody, they waited to get to the cliff or to the edge of a ridge, or you're on a bridge. Mm-hmm. If they can, and they have the energy to push you off of it, what's going to happen?
Right.
I've heard stories of that bridge that she's talking about where some people have died. A couple of people have died on that bridge. On the train, something to do with the train crossing over the bridge where that goat man is spotted. But the shapeshifters and skinwalkers, they'll put you in a situation where you're near an edge. So if they can, how should I say, have enough energy, they'll shove you right off of that, So I don't know if it was a good idea to be going on bridges, or I've gotten shoved off a ridge, and I was all bruised up. I was on crutches for 2 months. I was by the back it was just the back, nothing but the wall of the ridge, right? And I get shoved, and I'm going downwards, and my leg twist, my ankle twist, my knee twist, and I'm bouncing around all over like Humpty Dumpty, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I broke the falls using my body, but my body was all bruised up. My arms, my shoulders, my back, my hips, my legs. I have bumps like the Pink Panther, but the bumps were there for about 2 months, you know, like on my forearms. But I felt something shove me, but there was nobody behind me. So, you know, it's kind of like it's strange where when I hear stories that people say, I've seen like me when I witnessed the Dogman, but it didn't attack. You know, you see something that big that it's going to be aggressive or it's going to attack you, or so the people say they've seen a Sasquatch and it don't attack. I know I put it to the test spiritually a couple of times when he was manifested to look at God, and I say, a type by rebuke in Jesus Christ's name, and it just disappeared. And you could smell like sulfur. One of them that I did the same thing to, a type by rebuke in Jesus Christ's name, it smells like pestilence, like sore. And sometimes it will leave like traces of black goo behind where they were standing. So, you know, it's crazy. It's like when you're trying to figure out what you're dealing with, you know. I think that's why it's important for us to stick together, you know, spiritual, cryptid, and try to find an answer to what we're dealing with, you know.
Mm-hmm. So Jason's comment is interesting. I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Good.
I was just gonna talk about Jason's comment there, you know, because the next thing I was going to talk about is Brown Springs, because that place is
it's a hotbed.
Crazy. It is crazy up there. So I'm just the stories I've heard coming out of there. A lot of body dumping, murders.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I know that when I was up in the cemetery, I definitely saw evidence of a ritual of some kind that took place. And there were, you know, burnt remains and candles. And I just know that kind of magic is like, that's not good. That's not, they weren't doing anything good there. And
is there a lot of limestone in that area also? Like limestone?
There might be. I don't,
Because, you know, there's a water source, you know, so sometimes when there's a lot of limestone, activity picks up, the supernatural picks up, you know, in which a lot of things are being seen by people that's out of the ordinary, you know. And then another one you're talking about, there was doing rituals out there that's opening portals, you know,
right,
where activity can happen.
Yeah, I mean, and there's, you know, all kinds of crazy just legends in the area. I mean, that place is really like, I don't know, it attracts dark things and death. That's all I can say. And if you go spend any time out there, it is a creepy place for sure. You know, and I don't doubt that there are 8 different kinds of things at any given time roaming the area.
Where's this location at again?
It's called Brown Springs. It's on the Texas-Oklahoma border.
Yeah, Tex from Texas Front Porch, he likes to go there and research, or he used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was there during the eclipse. And then it's a really interesting area.
The eclipse.
You mean the Death Star?
I'm not subbing to that one. Yeah. It came in the wrong direction. I'm like, I know east to west, and that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's it was weird. What is this guy talking about? That Lucifer had every precious gem on earth? What is this guy?
What?
I don't know. This Brian Maynard dude, he's got some weird stuff going on here. I don't know that I've seen him before in the chat, but
is he the cult guy?
Yeah.
Channel spirits. Yeah.
Priests used to wear minerals back in the day in their garments. They were just like the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark had minerals on it also. You know, so
yeah, I mean, it could be used for like, I get what he's saying, that an angel or a demon can use it. It's like a tool, but a negative entity is not going to want to use a positive energy. Yeah, it's not going to use that. So that doesn't hold water. I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I disagree. That's all I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah, you can't use equal and opposite frequencies for
no.
like, you know, there is positive and negative frequencies, and that's the laws of nature as far as they're
Yeah,
concerned.
that's how it goes.
I had a selenite sword, and you know how people always talk about. They would always tell me like, "Hey man, you should go to the woods with a weapon. You know, carry a weapon with you because you might never know you might need it." I always believe that Jesus Christ. I mean, I know there's animals out there, but I put it to the test. A guy bought me a selenite sword, and I was going to do a video. When I do my videos on Facebook, and as soon as I was going entering the woods, I had the selenite sword in my hand. My connection got interrupted. It shut off. I was like, oh man. So at that point in time, my hairs were standing up, like there was something around me. I said, you know what? I had an option, back and leave or keep on going. So I kept on going. Even though there was activity around me, I could sense it. So I was kind of praying within myself, but I could sense that the like negative energy around me where my hairs were standing up. So I kept on doing the video, and I kept on walking through there. And as I was walking through the path, and there was the woods, I seen the back of a truck sticking out from inside the woods. I went to go around the vehicle. I could see a wallet there. I could see the keys in the ignition, but I couldn't find nobody. So I walked further, and things were getting hot and heavy because I could feel negative energies around me. So I still had the selenite sword in my hand, and I found an area where there was like somebody was staying there, a homeless or something. So I started hearing things like without using my senses. I was hearing like growlings and all kinds of stuff, like disembodied voices. So I said, okay, it's time for me to get out of here. So, the people that were viewing, they're like, hey, you need to get out of there. I'm seeing something. So I'll leave the area, that's it for nothing to follow me. I go to where the vehicle is parked in a parking lot, and I call the cops, because I call the cops because I found a vehicle that there was nobody there. I even yelled to see if there was somebody there. Nobody would say nothing. So called the cops, waited there for about 2 hours. They never showed up. I got home. They called me if I could give them coordinates to the location. So I gave them the coordinates where the truck was. Following week comes, they said that they found a person that was missing for about 3 months.
Oh.
So that truck that the license plate numbers that I gave them was a person that was missing, and the body of the person who was missing was right there also nearby. I believe it was underneath the tarp. I never touched anything. When you run into something like that, you don't touch nothing. So I just gave them the information. But this guy had been missing for 3 months, and nobody knew where it was at. And they found a body, and he was placed in holy ground or whatever the case may be. And sometimes I believe it's about, if there's somebody missing, it's for them to be found and placed in holy ground in order for their spirit to rest properly,
Right.
But that happened to me with a piece of selenite. Well, I did another video, and I had the selenite on me, and before I got home, something hit the selenite. I felt the impact, and it broke the sword. It broke it. Like it knocked it. It broke it where it
I
shattered.
don't believe you. Prove it to us.
Show us the
I got the sword.
Show us the broken blade. Show us the demon.
Where I got it shattered. I'll be right back. I'll show it to you.
Pictures are never
seriously, you are?
Yep.
All right, cool.
So I want somebody to find that image of something behind me. I want to see what that was.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago or something.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to go back and watch, folks. See if you can spot the demon.
Find Monica's demon.
Let's circle the demon. Let's see where it's at. Joe, you're in charge of that. Find the demon that was talking behind Monica. There'll be a quiz tomorrow.
I work in a smoke shop, so I got all day to kill. Shouldn't be a problem.
Are you working tomorrow during the day or what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I work
go
tomorrow.
hit up that pool guy tomorrow, that flea market, and go check it out.
Well, I'm working till 8, and then my daughter, she's doing her little graduation party at the gas station after that. So,
Oh wow!
I'm gonna get off and go out there and hang out.
Oh shoot, he was going to show us.
Wow.
He had a piece
It
of
happened.
all night there.
He's like, oh, I got her. Oh, for some reason, it just disconnected.
Yeah, folks, Brian was removed. I didn't remove him, but somebody did. Somebody removed him from the chat, I guess, because he was being sort of argumentative and saying weird stuff.
He's saying really weird things.
Yeah, so we gave him a chance. There he is.
I'm back. I'm showing it to y'all. Look. This is. He shattered the selenite sword. Look.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like that. It's when I got into my house after I said for nothing to follow me. Before I was going to put the sword up, something hit it out of my hand and it shattered this piece of the sword. So I haven't fixed it. So I just put it up on display over there, but it's damaged. But it was mad. Whatever was there was mad because I helped that the person that was missing get found. I never got no credit for it from the police department or nothing like that. I know it was still under investigation. To this day, I don't know how this person passed away. You know, if there was foul play or anything like that. But the things that were around me didn't want me to interfere, but I still interfered. You know, normally when you feel something, you go with your spirit, right? But you know, I'm just showing you. It's a selenite sword, and it got broken. It got hit very hard. You know, I'm a pretty, I guess, strong guy. It got hit out of my hand, which is just shattered. So I just like, okay, that's okay. You know, at least that person got found.
Yeah, that's great that they found them.
But you know, when there's something, the activities, the territorial things that are there, or what's in the land, it didn't want him to be found, but I helped him. You know, I just go with my spirit, and this is just a damaged sword. You know, that it got broken by an unseen force, where I could feel like it hit it out of try to hit the whole sword out of my hand, but it broke. You know.
Right.
Well, you know, what's crazy is that people still to this day, like, they just will not open themselves up to learning and to the truth. You know, there's still people that think that if you're using selenite, that you're doing some kind of witchcraft or some bullshit. And I'm like, dude, it's simple vibrations, dude. Everything is vibration. Everything, frequencies. It's all about frequencies.
Yeah.
I wish people would understand that and they would take it to heart and grasp what we're trying to tell them. We're not a bunch of wackos out here. Well, I don't know about these three, but I'm not. I mean, I'm not.
I am.
But so Monica, before we go, like, tell us a little bit. Have you had anything you've heard about Brown Springs? You know, like anything else?
So, I mean, I've heard stories and there's legends coming out of there. You know, I've heard. Okay, so the one that really disturbed me, I couldn't find any evidence of it online. This crime, but it's pretty persistent story. Like, people allude to it in different articles, but I couldn't find. Like, I was trying to find a police report on it, and I can't find that. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because I do think things get buried, right? Things purposefully are hidden. But there was a woman found somewhere out there on the hood of her car, right? Deceased. She had been clearly murdered. She was essentially split from the sternum down.
Yeah.
And there were rumors about it being like satanic worshiping or devil like worshiping, something to that extent. Like I said, those are rumors, those are stories. I've heard it, you know, I've heard articles allude to it in that, you know, there was a woman found on her hood. But again, I can't find anything to back that up. But, you know, that, if that's true, that's just terrifying to me. You know, that's just so disturbing. there are stories of this clan that used to live out there a long time ago that were like killing travelers coming through the area, and they assaulted this one woman, and her family got wind of it, and they came out there and, you know, wiped out the clan. And the head, the patriarch of the clan, they ended up like staking out in the field and letting the local man dog, is what they called it, have an easy meal of the guy. And when they came back out the next morning, he was deceased, of course, and his insides were on the outside, let's say. So, I mean, there's stories going back a long way of just horrible, nasty things. And I feel that attracts darkness, right?
Yes.
Anything dark that's happening, anything negative, low vibration, call it what you want, is going to attract similar to the area. And we're not just talking cryptids. I mean, we're talking evil people as
rituals, you know, spiritual rituals. I remember finding cats that were disemboweled in that nature, hanging from a fence when I was growing up. They would kill my neighbor's cat. Somebody was killing my neighbor's cats and hanging them with a rope on the fence.
That happened to us in West Texas. That somebody poisoned my sister's puppy.
Oh.
I had a puppy. Well, they were both our puppies, but we cried so hard. And then, like, not even 2 weeks later, my puppy got loose. I was supposed to be holding it, but I was a little 6-year-old kid, and I couldn't. He squirmed loose. He tried to follow my dad outside, and my dad ran him over on accident. And my dad, that was one of the few times I saw my dad just cry like a child. But my sister's puppy had been poisoned, and so the neighbor's dog had been poisoned, and then somebody was killing cats and hanging them on the fence, and then they poisoned a horse. But it lived, thank God, because the horse was right next door to us, and they had it was a very rural town, and they had a horse in there. And I love that horse. I never got to ride it or anything, but I would go up to her and I'd feed her apples and stuff, and she was really cool. I thought she was my friend. I mean, she'd see me, she'd come up and, and stuff, but she got real sick. And when I thought she was going to die, it was killing me because I was a little child. And my dad and my mom and several of the other people in the neighborhood just went door to door. I'm not joking. And my dad was he's a big guy. And they were just kind of like, kind of being threatening, like, if we're looking for the people who are poisoning people's pets, and if you know anything about it, because my dad's like, if I find somebody, it's on, and so whoever it was stopped because, several of the men in the neighborhood, and some of them with their wives, my mom was one of them. They just went door to door, knocking on people's doors and be like, and if it's you better knock it off, And then the police were called by somebody, and my dad got suspicious, and he thinks he knew the person that was doing it. And there again, it's weird because a year later, I remember my baseball team, we went to Pizza Hut because we had won the whatever it was, And the guy that my dad said, I think that dude was the one doing it. Get this, he was wearing a shirt with a pentagram on it.
Oh, man.
So my dad believed that it was him, and I don't think my dad even really knew what that was. My dad's like a country person. He didn't know what the hell that was. He just said, I think that guy's the one, And so I remembered that symbol. And then years later, I remember like Slayer using that upside down pentagram. And the only time I'd ever seen it that I remember was on that guy's shirt. And the guy looked really evil. And my dad wouldn't let us go play video games because the guy was kind of lurking around over there. And so my dad said that when he tried to talk to that dude, he tried to close the door in him and my sister's friend's dad's face. And my dad stuck his foot in the door and was like, you sure are in a hurry to not talk, And of course he called I think it was him that called the police. And my dad, of course, had a gun. He wasn't brandishing it, but it was in his behind his belt, whatever. Yeah, because my dad he's one of those people that, like, he's not a shit starter, but he definitely doesn't take people's shit. And there were some people that lived across from us when we lived out in the country in Rockdale, and they were doing something. They were always burning stuff at night. And my dad, my dog got attacked by one of their dogs. Their pit bull attacked my border collie and hurt him pretty bad. And so my dad, when their pit bull came into our yard, my dad killed it. I mean, simple as that. That dog tried to kill one of our dogs and was going to try and kill another, and had already killed one of our cats. and they wouldn't control them or get them under control. So my dad just, I mean, we were driving. I'll never forget this. And it was so shocking. My dad just jumps out, back then people had gun racks, right? And my dad just took the rifle and bam. And I was like, I didn't even, it was so quick. I didn't even know what had just happened. I got out and I was like, oh. And the dog was still trying to walk away. And it was, going after one of our female dogs. And my dad followed along it and told me, he goes, you can look away or you can stare at it. It's up to you. I don't care. And I watched him dispatch this dog. And then my dad made me help him drag the dog to it's pretty gruesome work, and hang it over the fence of the neighbors. And the next day, these two big old goofy redneck dudes, they thought they were going to do something. They pull into our yard like, you think there's some kind of joke? You gonna hang that dog on our goddamn fence, you son of a bitch? And my dad just walks out and was like, just right. I'm standing right there as a child. My dad's like, he's like, you better get in your truck, shut the F up, and get off our property. And he's like, if I see you around at all, he goes, I'm gonna kill you. I mean, and these were like very like just backwoodsy people. And he's like, and I don't know what this shit is you're burning all the damn time, and so my dad was like, and then get this. Wasn't very thought out because I had to be alone sometimes at night because my dad would work shift work and he couldn't always get a babysitter. And he started only getting a babysitter because of those guys, And so my dad was teaching me how to shoot properly with a bigger caliber weapon. So I learned with a 308, a 22-250, and a 30-06. And a 12-gauge shotgun. And my dad said, be proficient and be able to do this and that. Now, the pistol that he got me a smaller one, which was a 38, because he had a 357. It was too big for me. I couldn't, whatever. And so my dad was like telling me that he thought they were satanic. And then when they finally were moved out, because there were some native people that lived on the other side of them, they were always having problems with them. When they moved out, they told me and my dad, look, you need to go in there and look in their house. We go in there, and there was all kinds of satanic stuff all over the place, like all over the place. And there were dead animals everywhere. I've never seen anything like it, man. I was like a little 11-year-old kid. I mean, it was like unbelievable, man. Like it was like they had like pots and stuff that were like full of stuff. They weren't cooking. It was just weird, And then my dad told me to get out because he didn't want me looking at it. And it stunk real bad. And it was so bad. It was like Deliverance meets,
The Wrong Turn.
Wrong Turn. What is that Rob Zombie movie? The House, what is it called?
Oh, House of 1,000 Corpses?
Yeah. Like that, And it was crazy because when they moved, there was like all this heavy energy that like dissipated. It was like it was gone. And my dad and my friend Keith's dad were pretty forceful with them about like, look, we're going to stand our ground. We were here for, my dad owned that land for 5 years. It's like, we're not just going to run off because you want to come here and act stupid. You're just, and they had thrown trash and stuff on that land, but we came back from, West Texas and we had to clean it up. And so they were just like living out there like they could just do whatever they wanted. And one of them, we knew that there were two brothers and a sister, but one of them was in a relationship with the sister. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Pretty weird. And then they had a kid. Get this. They had a kid who was over there and he was like always banging on trees with a tomahawk. And if you walk by him, he'd be like, you're just like watching him and you're like, and his name was like, I don't remember his name was like, started with a T. It was like weird, like Tobith or some weird like name that didn't make any sense. And so I was just like, what's up, man? And I was like a kid. And of course, I was always walking with my gun because I was out shooting snakes and doing all kinds of crap. Things that kids nowadays would have no idea. And me and my friend Keith were walking by him and he was like just hitting on a tree with that. And he just like looking at us and he just like, so they do exist. These feral, weird ass people, they were our neighbors. Like, I mean, they didn't live right, like across the street for us is like right here. They were across the street, but they had a driveway and it was back up in there. You know what I mean? Like an eighth of a mile or something. And then their house sat way back up in there. but they were weird ass people, man. And I was always nervous with them roaming around.
Heck yeah, I guess.
And they look, and one of them, one of the brothers was cross-eyed too. He was like, yeah, shaggy hair. He was all, you know, and one of them, the forceful one, the real aggressive one, he was like, "You son of a bitch, you gonna kill our dog and hang it on the fence?" He talked just like that. And my dad just didn't even bat an eye. He was like, "Look, you redneck son of a bitch," and he just pointed his gun at him, you know, and was like, "You want to die today?" Basically, my dad started talking to him, and I was thinking, man, I can't believe I grew up living around this shit, you know. 15, I go and I live in the barrio, you know. I mean, and I'm like a güero. I'm like güero. My placa is like güero, you know. And then these dudes are all like, you know, who are you, man? Who are you, Holmes? You know, like, you know, and you think you're tough, and I'm like, not really. I hadn't punched me right in the face, you know. Hadn't thought about it until you just struck me, you know. No, I'm not really. Not a fighter, you know. I wasn't trying to. I think I had been in a couple fights as a kid or something, but that hit me like a ton of bricks. And they're just like, you know. But I learned something. I learned I could take a punch, and then I learned I was really quick with my fists. I was fast compared to like most other people. It was like they were standing still. And I became really good friends with some friends of my cousins, and they were just like the people that I saw the Dogman with. And they were like, "Oh, this guy can actually handle himself." Well, his dad was a boxer, you know, so he trained me and showed me how to keep from getting hit and how to throw a real punch. You know, that was how I started. And so then it got to where these people would come to the house and they'd be like, "Yeah, we want to fight that dude, man." You know, and my friends would come and get me and be like, "He wants to fight you." And it was a big joke because I'd go out there and I would just be like, I was always eating because I was so hungry as a kid. I didn't eat a lot when I was a kid. I didn't get a lot to eat. So I was like, my wife says it created an eating disorder, but I didn't get a lot to eat. So I was always eating. So when I had food, I would eat. So, you know, I was a teenager and I was playing ball and I was lifting weights. And so I would be eating something and they'd be like, "Hey, this guy wants to beat you up." It'd be like a game, you know, and I'd be like, "Oh, he's going to beat me up, huh? Okay." And I'd go out to take my shirt off and I'd be like, "What's up, man? You want to throw chingazos? Let's do this." And it would be like 2 seconds and they'd be on the ground and then it'd be over. And then I just go back to eating or whatever I was doing. And my friend's mother, Martha, I called her my tia. She wasn't really my tia, but I called her that. And I called my friend Daniel Robles. I called him a primo, or even like hermanos, you know, like my brother. And we're the ones that saw the Dogman together. And so these people would talk all this mess, and I go out there and I fight, and I go back inside. And Martha would always be like, she'd always try to read the Bible to me and tell me, you know, "No, don't be doing that. One day something bad's gonna happen, you know." And I would always be like, "Mentiras, stop with this bullcrap. Stories of this, the carejo is gonna get you, you know, and all this other stuff." And my great aunt was the same way with the carejo and la chusa, la llorona. Like everywhere you looked, there was something, right?
My mom used to scare me with Lechusa stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always that stuff. And I never believed it. And then when I was 15 and I saw it, then I was like, "Oh, this is actually a real thing." Then everything became real. And then I was calling them and asking questions. And I'll never forget my tia Hova. She laughed real. She's like, "And now, mijo, you want to know about the carejo? Yesterday, you told me I was a fool. And now you see, and now you want to know what that thing is. It's a diablo. And you saw it." You know, and she talked just like that. She goes, "Now don't make no more funs of me." She's like, "I know what I see, and it's an evil being, and now you see it too. No more run around with your friends, smoking that bad stuff and drinking the bad juice. Always fighting in the streets. That's why you saw that thing." She told me just like that. And so, you know, who knows? I mean, you know, my mom used to tell me that too. She's like, "One of these days you're going to see the devil because you live and act like a devil." And she was right, you know. And so but I didn't approach it from a supernatural angle. I was like, I want to figure out what this is. You know, my friend Daniel has been content all these years that he's a preacher now in my hometown to just be like, you know what? It was a warning of something. We need to change our lives. And he went a different path. We both got locked up as kids and did some time as kids, and then we got out and we went separate ways. I went and became a gangster, and he went and became a preacher. When I first came to the barrio, he was the bad kid, and and I was just this goofy kid from the country who had an accent. And so he told me, he says, "Man, you need to quit talking like that." And I'm like what?
Like what?
He's like, "You sound like you just came from the hills." I said, I did, barely wore shoes. And then it was like time to learn to be somebody else. And so my dad told me, he said, "I'm the only one in my family that doesn't talk like he's from the hills, And I said, "Why is that, Dad?" And he says, "Because if you want to be a man of business and you want to do something with yourself, you can't walk into a place and be like, 'Yeah, I want to be the head electrician over here at the power plant.'" Right. Scratching your butt and spitting dip everywhere, because there are people that did that. And they'd be like, "Okay, well, we're going to give you a job in the smelting part of the plant because that's where people like you go." And my dad said he didn't want that. He didn't want to do that. And he wasn't going to be a cattle rancher or a farmer. He did that when he was younger, and it just wasn't his thing. Everybody in my dad's family, everybody wears cowboy boots. They all wear cowboy hats, and I love them to death. They're country people. They're not bigots. None of them. They're all very, very, very loving, God-fearing people. Always accepted me. Were very kind to me. My mother's family, half of them are like vaquero, and the other half are like, they're like cholo, and that's just how they are. And I grew up though in a very, very bad way, in a very, very bad place. When I was 15, and my mom, she was just like, "This is your new life. This is where I live. This is where you're going to be. And this is how it's going to be." And, I just had to adapt. And the neighborhood was bad. And the neighborhood bordered the black neighborhood. And they didn't give a crap whether you were brown or white. You weren't them. That's all that mattered. I got my ass kicked coming and going from school. I'd run through their neighborhood, and then I would get into a fight at school because I talked funny. And then there were these group of white kids that didn't like me because I was mixed, and it was a group in the Old South. It was a small group of them. We called them shit kickers. And they were always fighting with these Mexicans that I was friends with, and then I would fight with them. And then I fought with the other Mexicans because the other Mexicans didn't like the Mexicans I hung out with. And it was always a fight at every party because somebody's girl kissed somebody's dude and blah, blah, blah. And I was always having to fight all the damn time. But everything gets kind of put in perspective when you see something like what I saw. It changes everything because it's like I knew there was a whole nother world out there that we weren't seeing because what the hell was that? Like what was that?
Right.
It just opened up everything to me, man.
Dude, it's funny that you say that, man, about the way you talk, like you get the accent going and stuff, because like that's how my son is. Like, so by the time he was born, I'd already started a different life and started becoming a man's man, you know what I mean? And put away my childish stuff, And like, dude, every time he comes around, he's going on 18 now. He's like, "Nah, Dad, see what you need to know, man." And I'm like, dude, no one goes back to the hood. Like, we all got out of it. Once you get out of it, you stay out of it. No one's like, "Hey, I grew up with a great life and everything I needed." They'd be like, "I'll just jump into the old bullshit." And I'm like, dude, did you just say way? Like, fool, like way. Like, dude, stop it, bro.
Yeah, it's funny when you say, dude, I had a black friend that used to do that, man. His name was Nathaniel. And he was always like, "Nombre way homes." And a black dude, man. And he used to hang out with us, dude. And his cousin, the reason is because his cousin Joe was half. He was half black, half Mexican. And his mother was black. And so but she used to smack him upside the head. She'd be like, "Stop acting like Mexican." She's like, "I didn't raise you."
Yeah.
Like, he's like, "No, for real though, like he would talk like that. And then his cousin would come and visit for the summer. And I remember he was like a year or two younger than us. And I was like 17 at that time. He was like 15. And we kind of teased him about it. And we're like, "You're like, oh man, you're the wrong color, man." We're like messing with him, whatever. So he started talking that way. And I was like, "Nathan, we were just kidding, dude. You don't need to act like a Mexican." And he goes, "But I feel Mexican inside, Holmes." I was like, dude, I was like, well, you look black on the outside. I was like me, I look like a white guy.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't work out for me too well. I was fighting all the time. So, and then of course he got in a lot of fights, man. But I felt sorry for him because his mom was like, she lived in inner city Houston, and he would come and stay for the summer. She would literally send him away so he wouldn't be getting in trouble and fighting in Houston over there in the 5th Ward or whatever, 3rd Ward, whatever. And so, you know, he grew up with us, man. And I was talking to him one day, like downtown, like a few years ago, and I was like, remember when we were kids and you used to try to talk Mexican? And he was like, yeah, dude. And he's like, you taught me some Spanish so I could, like, you know, try to fit in or whatever. He goes, and then people would come up and go like, blah, 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 and I wouldn't know what the hell to say.
Yeah, dude. It was funny because I'm like, dude, we're native, dude. I didn't even talk like, I had more of an urban slang. Like, I wasn't even allowed to talk like that because back like in Pierce and Reagan and stuff, it was very, like you were saying, it was very territorial and segregated. So, yeah,
you went to Reagan High?
Yeah, I went to Reagan High.
Oh my gosh. Did you carry a machine gun or what?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Because I went to South Carolina, Travis, man. But you know what? None of them were as bad as Johnston. Johnston was so bad, they closed the school because it was so bad. Finally, after the last beating, shooting, stabbing, whatever, they just said to hell with it. They closed it. Yeah. Reagan, LBJ, and Travis, I think, were pretty much the ghetto schools, man. Yeah. Like I remember in my school, there was like only like maybe 28 white kids in my school, you know, and it was everybody, you know, acted ethnic or whatever because you kind of had to, you know. I remember the first day I was there at Travis, and they were trying to tease me, messing with me, whatever, and I had like a hot pocket or something. I was trying to eat it, and this kid comes up and asked me for it, so I spit on it, and I was like, "Here, take it." And he goes, "Oh, you think you're tough?" And he's this little fake gang of rolling 60s Crips. I'm like, "How are you rolling 60s? You don't drive. You're not driving with it, you know." So they come back with 3 or 4 of them and ended up like getting into a fight with them all, like at one point in time. But then this kid, I'm not gonna say his name. His last name starts with a D. His first name is Anthony. But I was locked up with him. And it was weird because one day I was thinking, did that little fucker say, it wasn't little, but I was like, did he say he went to Travis? And then 2 days later, he showed up. And when he came into the lunchroom, I remember a bunch of them were gathered around and pointing at me. And I was like, oh, God. I had gotten into this with this kid in one of the juvenile facilities, a place they called Gladiator School. And this kid came straight up to me and started talking to me. And I didn't waste any time because I knew I was going to get jumped that day. And there was like 5 of them. So I stood up and I just punched him right in his freaking nose, man. Broke his nose bigger than shit. And then they all just proceeded to beat the hell out of me. But the thing is, they didn't even take me down. Like they drugged me down and I got back up. And then in that fight, and this happens in life, folks. This is a lesson because even though they were going to whip my ass and they were whipping my ass and they put a beating on me, I had to go to the hospital. My kidney was bruised and I was peeing blood for a week, which has happened once before, you know, or after that. But the lesson is that sometimes in defeat, you gain as much respect and admiration as you do in any victory, because that fight showed all the kids in that school that you could do whatever you want, but you're not going to beat me. You can hammer me, but I'm not going to quit. And everybody was in shock that I fought those dudes. And I knocked 2 of them damn unconscious and knocked all the other 3 at least down once, but they got back up. But it took 5 of them, you know. And after that, nobody messed with me. They just kind of were like, this dude's on a different level. And I was determined to survive. So what ended up happening, this is a true story. I was walking home from school, and this kid, Anthony, he pulls up. He's with an older dude. I don't know this guy. And he jumps out, and this is the first time in my life that somebody had ever done this to me. And he pointed over my head right there on the overpass on Old Torf and 35. I was 16 years old, and this kid gets out of a car and points a gun at me. And he's like, and the guy in the driver's seat's telling him to hurry up and do it, hurry up and do it. And I was standing there with my backpack over my shoulder, and I dropped my backpack because I thought, I'm not let this guy kill me. So I was thinking about how I'm going to try to do something, you know, watch too many movies probably. I guess I thought I was going to stop him or something. And he lost his nerve, and there were people driving by and like looking. Back then, people didn't just sit there and take videos of stuff. This guy pulls up behind him, old white guy, got out of his vehicle and had a gun in his hand, and he said, "You need to put that gun down right now," and went right behind him. And he turned and looked, and the other dude tried to get out, and he said, "You can get back in that car, you know, and before I blow your ass away right here on this overpass." And then he was like, "I don't know what this young man did or why you got a gun to his head, but you ain't going to kill him, you know, in front of me." And he said, "I'm former law enforcement, blah, blah, blah." And so I grabbed my backpack and I just took off walking away from the situation. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. You know, it started at the Shell station and I just kept walking, and then they pulled up and then he jumped out, you know, right there on the overpass on Old Torf. I'll never forget that. First time a gun was pointed at me, it wouldn't be the last by a long shot. But this was inner city schools. They weren't, you know, it was not a good place. And I know where you went, Joe, Reagan. Oh my gosh, dude.
Oh yeah,
there was a lot of bad stuff going over there, dude.
Yeah. Now Pierce, when I was at Pierce, that was the
Pierce Middle School was bad too.
Yeah, this was the first time I ever had a gun pointed at me, but Reagan was the first time I ever got shot at.
Oh my
yeah, so, yeah. But no, but it's funny though, because like I was, you know, I'm native obviously, and when I had short hair, like a lot of the time the Mexicans, they'd, you know, try to check me to see if I was, you know, so they'd be like, "Orale Holmes, what's up, dog?" You know, and I'm like, "Yo, what's up, man?" And they're like, he said, "What's up, man?" You know? So I'm like instantly outed. So I just hang out with the Crips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they say
like,
"que pasa," you're supposed to say "que pasa,"
you know, yeah, because that's when like Northside Bros and
oh yeah, I remember the Bros.
ESB,
GV,
you know, yeah,
East Grande Barrio, yeah, and then there were the Latin Kings.
And East Side Gang Violence, all those cats. Yeah,
there was all. I remember all those gangs, man. I didn't really have too many problems with none of them. I had no run-ins with hardly any of those guys.
I was cool with them. It's just you're only accepted where you're accepted. You know what I mean? So,
but them Montopolis rats were bad though. When I went to go box in Montopolis, those fairway criminals, man, those fuckers, dude, they were little bastards, man. They were always hooping and hollering, and they get beat up by the boxers, and then go back and try to bring a gun or a knife, you know. Ridiculous, man. But anyway, guys, we're gonna run. We're gonna head out. Monica, thanks for showing up. Joe, thanks for showing up. Abe, are you fighting demons, Abe? What's going on, brother?
I had to get all those bracelets off my neck because they were weighing me down, man. I'm like, I was here trying to stay tough, man, but man, my neck is hurting now. That was a lot of necklaces around my neck. It felt like I was getting weighed down by them.
Like Mr. T, but with the crystals.
Yeah.
So I guess Brian is back. Okay, Brian says, "Why would you really care? I'm just a lucky guy that got out." Oh, okay. We didn't really understand, Brian, what you were saying. Tells you how beautiful Lucifer was, or one of his jewels that was on him. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, just kind of freaking people out, dude. It's, you know, whatever. Things are the way they are. Well, here, Madeline, I'm going to answer that. She says, "I can't believe that your mom thought it was a good idea to spend a summer in Chicago." She had family there. We still do. And what's crazy is that back then, though, I mean, this was like in 1990 or something like that, 89, 90. I don't remember. I think it was 89 or 90. And I went up there in 91 and boxed out of Windy City Boxing Gym. And so I was going to take some summer classes at Lincoln High, which is a big no-no. So I went there and I was like, this is a zoo. It was horrible. It was worse than the schools I had been to. And I was like, I'm not going to do this. And so, you know, because I was in these advanced placement classes and I was going to try and keep up. And they were like, yeah, we have this summer program you can go to and you can keep up. Because my plan was to not go to school my senior year. And then my dad, he didn't want that. He wanted me to be, I don't know. I think he just wanted me to play sports or something because he thought I was going to go do something with it, And but anyway, it ended up my mom and dad having an argument about it. My mom wanted me to not go to school. I mean, not go to school, but not like to go directly into college. And so my dad was like, no, he's not going to be mature enough for that and blah, blah, blah. Because I always managed to do very well, And I remember putting in a reformatory and getting a GED. And then I already had my GED. So then they were like, well, you're still going to go to class. I'm like, for what? I remember the guard like kicking the bed and telling me, get your ass up off that bed, brush your teeth or whatever the hell you do. You got 15 minutes and then take your ass in line. He's like, I'm going to kick you so hard, you're going to be wearing your ass for a hat. And he got right in my face. And I was like, okay. He was a big dude. And he was like, okay. He and he turned around and walked out. And he was a big dude. He always had that baton with him. And his name was Thomas. And he had some little dude who was always with him. I can't remember his name. So I got up and I said, okay, I guess I'm going to class. And the teacher comes out, and the teacher was like, super, super gay guy, but he was a really friendly guy. He was very nice, and he was very helpful. And he's like, I'm so glad you're all here with me today. We have a new student. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I was just kind of like this, like, I'm not into this. And he goes, somebody thinks he's smart. He doesn't need to be here. So he kept trying to embarrass me. And so he started talking Latin. And so I started speaking back to him. And then he was like, oh, so you're smarter than you look. He insulted the hell out of me. But I couldn't say anything to this guy because, there's a guard right there that will take care of your smart ass. And so I had to adapt. And, and I said, okay. And so I went to class and I kept going. So I ended up graduating from this facility and having a GED too. So really weird how life is, and because I had kind of stopped and said, well, I'm not going to do any of this crap. What do I need it for, And then I ended up going to college and then dropping out because I felt like it wasn't going to do shit for me. And I got into it with one of the teachers and then the dean because they were lying. They literally were teaching history incorrectly. And I said, this is a lie. I said it in class. I mean, there was like 30 students in there, I was at ACC, you know what that is, Joe. Mm-hmm. And I stood up and I said, she's like, you want to teach the class? And I said, yes, I would. And I actually went up to the podium and started teaching the class. So she took off like a little snitch and went and got the dean and came back. And he stood there with his arms crossed. And I was like, well, she's lying. So he's like, you can quit. You can learn the way we want you to learn. I said, I'll quit. And I did. And my dad was pissed. He was just like, why did you do that? That was stupid. You're going to work the rest of your life on jobs that you're not going to like because you can't keep your mouth shut about what you think is right. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm not going to work jobs I don't like. I'm going to find my niche and I'm going to do it. And I did. I proved everybody wrong. So, here we are where we are. Chicago, interesting place. Very ethnic. It's a place where you think that's just a white guy. No, it is an Italian guy. It is a Polish guy. It is an Irish guy. And they are very adamant about what they are and who they are and that you don't belong in their neighborhood. And there's Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, and it's all each little hood has its own
unless you're in Cabrini Green.
Cabrini Green was like a nightmare. You don't want to go to Cabrini Green. And even the black people, they're Haitian and Jamaican. Like I went up to this one guy, and I asked him for directions. And back then it was, you didn't have a cell phone with them that did all these things. And this guy goes, oh, what you gonna do, man? You're gonna do this and gonna go there. And if you go too far down that way, man, that's where the Dominicans are. If they're wearing green, you better watch yourself, man. I'm like, okay. I'd never heard somebody talk like that. I'm like, where are you from? Oh, I'm Jamaican. And then he's like, hey, man, do you talk? And I'm all like, yeah, but I'm boxing, man. I don't want to do all that. He goes, okay, no problem, man. He goes, but don't be buying nothing from them Haitians. They're selling the fake swag. It ain't no good. They spray it. And I'm all like, what? I couldn't understand what this guy was saying, And then the Haitians are telling me something else. And then the Dominicans are telling me something else. And the Cubans are telling me something else. And then the Polish people tried to beat me up because I sounded funny, and they're like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from Texas." "Yeah, I could tell. Have you had your ass beat by a Polak?" And I'm like, "Not." And the dude stops me, and I was like, and then one of them tried to put his arms behind me, to work me over, and I just got loose real quick. And I got loose, and I was running away, and I'll never forget this. And I was like, "You guys need to work out." And then I just get whacked upside the head by this other big Polish dude. And then I was on the ground, and I was getting kicked by like 5 people. And eventually there was this guy came up and was like, hey, you guys, blah, blah, blah. And he came, and there was these 3 guys came, and they started fighting with him, and they all kind of backed off. Well, apparently they had chased me into the Italian neighborhood. And so then the Italians, I was sitting there, and they were like looking at me, and they were like, "What are you doing here? Who are you?" And I'm like, "Well, I live down there." And they're like, "Well, you need to walk through this alley, cut up this alley, go down this street." I'm like, "What is this?" It's like some sort of like crazy, like super hyper segregation. I had never seen such a segregated place in my life, because here in Texas, it was just like you're white, Hispanic, Native, or Black. I mean, that's pretty much it. There was hardly any Asian people. And then you were just like, everybody that's a white guy is just white. There's no like, oh, I'm a Polish person, I'm Italian, I'm Irish, whatever. And so you were just like, what is this, And so they were nice to me, and once everybody kind of figured out what I was doing, I would run, I would just wear my gloves over my neck, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's just Wolf. He's, he's boxing, that's what he does." So they left me alone for the most part, But yeah, it was a very ethnic, it was an experience. I'll never forget it. And then by the time the summer was over, I was ready to get my ass back to Texas. My mom was like, "You're going to want to live there. You're going to like it." Bullshit. Not what happened. That's not what happened. I was like, "I want to come home. I want to be abused by you again, Mom. It's fun, Whatever. Yeah. Anyway, and then Maddie says, "Wolf, I still can't believe your mom said you got it so bad today." Back then, it wasn't as bad though. Now they call it Chirac. It's like it wasn't great then either. All right, guys. Well, it was good. It was real. We had fun. We talked, and we had all kinds of things to talk about. Thank you to everybody who donated, everybody who showed up. Those who donated. Let me see here. Eve Air. Nicholas Bravo, Bull Shizzle, Monica Lonsich. I hope I'm saying that right. Nicholas Bravo became a member. Liberty, always bringing the heat. And then TN, what is it? Is that Tennessee Ridge Runner 2? Keep spreading the message to the unbelievers. The Tennessee Ridge Runner sounds like a bootlegger. My grandfather was a bootlegger during Prohibition. My great-grandfather, my mom's grandfather, was a bootlegger. It was too?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, both my great uncle, my grandfather's uncle, him and his brother were bootleggers, and then my mom's grandfather was a bootlegger, and he was so light-skinned. He was a Spaniard, pure Spaniard with green eyes, and he could talk Spanish like that, but he could also talk like a white guy. So when he would get pulled over and they would talk to him, he would just be like, "Yes, I'm carrying this blah 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 blah." And when it was the Mexicans, he would be like, blah 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 blah, like talking like.
That's how you work.
Casey Amber, JoJo, Spilling Tea with Spunky Sparky, Bull Shizzle again, and Two Shadows, Daniel Corsino, and Titoey. Always bringing up the rear, but hey, better late than never. And last but not least, always Titoey. She comes in late and drops a little moolah. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, folks. It keeps the show going, and it's going to help pay for legal fees right now that we're having to deal with. Madeline is also another one. I'm thinking Madeline's probably going to have to set up a GoFundMe, and I hate to say this on the show, but she's being harassed. These people will not stop, so she has to use our lawyer. So they will stop one way or the other. It's going to happen. And I hate that goes on. The people have to be that way. But, yeah, that's what's going on. Also, don't forget, Brother Heck, if you want to go and check him out, he has a GoFundMe. I think it's on my Facebook, or you can check his. He's got cancer, and, yeah, he's struggling. So What was the other thing? Oh, and the camera equipment. I did find somebody who has got a pretty good deal on some camera equipment. So, Joe, if your guy can't make it out or whatever, we still could we'll have the equipment to go out and do what I want to do. And I need to get in touch with the people so that they don't come out there and try to run us off when we go to Lawrence Cemetery and be like, "What are you doing out here?" Well, what do we tell them? We tell them we're grave robbers or that we're looking for the black dog.
No, he's down, man. And he just recently, I think it was the week or the day after the last show I interviewed him on. His name's Richard Wesley Woody. You can look him up on my Facebook.
Is he related to Bob Woody?
Huh?
Downtown? Is he related to Bob Woody? Because Bob Woody.
No, they're Cibolo.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
But he did a whole investigation on. Remember the old Aquarina Springs?
Yeah, you told me that, dude. I would love to see those pictures. I went there as a kid.
Crazy,
Sixth grade, everybody would go there for their field trip.
Yeah. Ralph
the Swimming Pig.
Yeah.
But did you go there? Did you ever go there, Joe?
I went there once. And I actually didn't go there for school because our schools didn't do that. But I went there when I was in the mental institution. They actually took us. they took us.
You were in the QR too.
Oh, dude! I spent 2 years in there. Dude.
Well, it's not really a mental institution. It's a treatment center. They call it. They call them treatment centers.
Well, yeah. Well, a couple of them were. When I went to Ash, that was literally a mental institution.
Really? Well, as long as you tell them what they want to hear, which is that you're perfectly okay with, all the bullshit they're trying to shovel on you, then they'll let you out.
Right. I was just too stubborn, and it took me about 1.5 years to play along.
You were in long term, dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I went to residential. Yeah, I was in there.
Residential.
Like, you're gonna be here till you're 18.
Yeah,
and I was like, I think I went in. I was probably 11 when I went in, and I was like 13 when I got out.
Dude, I started going in when I was a teenager because it was like you're getting locked up. So they give you like a social worker and they'll be like, you want to go to a place where, people don't try to basically, assault you all the time. And I'm like, yeah, of course. So then
that's how
you get locked in there for a long time.
Yeah, I got in there because I got arrested stealing like $3,000 of merchandise from Hala Mall. And so I got put on probation, and I just kept acting a fool. And
getting in trouble.
Yep. There.
You do the Scared Straight program where they send you to Sugarland?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yep.
They sent me to Sugarland, and they're like, yeah, man, we're it's horrible in here,
Yeah,
but
they showed us.
It really wasn't that bad, though, because they were like working out and hitting the heavy bag and doing stuff that I did in my everyday life. And I was like, this place is got a pretty cool workout facility.
Yeah. Well, offline, I'll tell you all about it because I went through probably like 5 or 6 of them, but the longest I spent was in Charter. I think I stayed in Charter.
Charter.
Yeah,
I was in Charter.
Yeah, I think I was there for probably a good year of it. But
their motto was like, if you don't get help at Charter, please get help somewhere.
Yeah, that place is
because you're basically a little criminal and you're trying not to be in juvie. So they're like, hey, go there, Yeah, that was the way, And then they had the ropes course. Did you do the ropes
course? Yeah.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah. Yeah, because your insurance will pay for Charter, but it's not going to pay for juvie.
And the food at Charter was good, but they served chicken like every day. It was like baked chicken, fried chicken, chicken. It was just,
dude. I probably weighed as much when I got out of there as I do now.
Yeah, everybody gets fat in Charter, man, because they feed the hell out of you. Remember the galley? You had the galley snacks, and I was like, dude, I eat better in here than I do at home. There were kids in there that were like liking it because it was better than being at home.
Yep.
It's a mess, man. That's crazy that you were in Charter, bro. It's not there no more, man. It's like an insurance place now.
No kidding. I
have an account that's not far from there. It's literally around the corner from there. It's in a bad area now. It's all bad over there.
Yeah. I've driven through there. It's just crap.
Graffitied and shit. All right, guys. Well, anyways, enough about me and Joe's ridiculous past. So, you know me, I'm an open book. I don't care. People are like, I'm going to find out something about you from your. I don't give a shit what you do. All right. I don't care. You can try.
Next,
I don't give a
baby.
crap. I don't deny my past. I don't hide from anybody. But anyways, guys, thank you for donating. Thank you for showing up. Abe, remember, Abe has been doing really good work. I want you to tell people what you got, Abe, because you've been going on late at night.
Yeah.
And then the next day you get like 1,000 views on your
2,000 views, 1,000, 2,000.
Yeah.
I've been doing works when the people think the worst things are out here. That's when I'm doing the works to let people know that Jesus Christ is always with us.
Absolutely.
So I do my lives in the times that what people call the witching hour, the demonic hour. I do my lives at that time, and I try to help out people that are going through things. And, of course, I talk spiritually about the balance and all that. So, yes, I've been doing pretty good. That's how I made my 1,000 this week with 3 podcasts that I did. It got me to the 1,000 marker. A lot of viewers late at night. And they're asking me, like, last night, hey, you going to be on tomorrow? And I was like, well, I'm going to do a show with Brother Josh Turner. I told him about you, her on the round table. So, but if I do, it'll be like just like this. It'll be late at night. You know, I like saying stories, and then there's some people that they talk back to me. There were some veterans over there also, so they could relate to what I was saying, and stuff like that. But on Spiritual Encrypted Encounters on YouTube.
And so Spiritual Encrypted Encounters on YouTube, and that's Abe's channel.
And I got Spiritual Encrypted Encounters on Facebook. But right now I'm doing the works through YouTube.
Yeah, and we got to get him some subscribers, folks, because Abe needs to get paid for this. I mean, he does a good job. So y'all go and like and subscribe to him. Monica, what's yours?
I am on Texas Front Porch as Our Paranormal World, and we go on live every Thursday at 7 p.m. And I do have a Facebook page that is also Our Paranormal World.
And if you got stories, and folks, I'll be real honest, I'm backed up, man. So if you want to give some stories to people, I mean, I don't blame you. I don't get, there's people that I'm seeing that have reached out to me and they're on other people's shows. I have so much I'm trying to, I'm trying to catch up, trying to keep up. So I'm not going to be mad if you go somewhere else. Brother Heck, I know he was trying to reach out to me, and he went on to, who was he with? Wasn't on Barton's show. What was, Brother Heck, what show were you on recently? I think he was on with Matt. I think he was on with Matt Imps, but he went somewhere else, and it wasn't nothing, nothing personal. Like I just don't have. I have so many stories I'm trying to keep up. I'm trying to get them out there. So if you're, you've given me a story and I can't get to it, don't take offense. We are trying. Yeah, Planet 412. There you go. Whoever is using the PRT thing. So, and you, where do we find you at, Joe?
So I just recently memorized it. So it's basically, the channel is called Joe Breezy, and you'll see a black and white skull and crown, but I think the actual address is Joe Breezy PH1LM. So it looks like film, but with a PH. But yeah,
okay, so Joe Breezy Film PH.
Yeah, it looks like PH1LM. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't have a set time. Lately, I've been doing trying to get certain guests locked in, but unfortunately, the people that I mess with aren't consistent about YouTube. They're just friends of mine. They're acquaintances, people that I know have stories. So I would just say hit the notifications bell, and you'll see when we jump on.
One way to get that to grow too, like if you guys want me to, I can go on your show. The paratroopers will always show up. I mean, and then you guys, they can find you. They'll know where to find you. And yeah, that's one way to get it to grow.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm also gonna have Matt. He wants to come on. I just got to. It's funny because like I do yours on Friday. This other guy, Tim Zoller, I do his like on Wednesday and Thursday, and then I do Matt's on Tuesday. So I'm like, when's it going to be my turn?
Matt goes on like I don't even know when he's going on. Like I can't keep up. Like I don't know what he's doing. Like it's like
I just know he invited me on with those other two dudes, and I'm sorry I haven't memorized the names yet, but he does a Tuesday show with these other two cats, and they just
is it Rye Voss one of them?
What's that?
Rye Voss isn't Rye one of them?
I think so. Yeah. That sounds really familiar. Yeah. And some dude named PJ or P.
Oh, the J Squatcher, JC Squatcher. Yeah. I know who they are.
I'm just bad with names.
Yeah, they're nice guys. Somebody recently was trying to get me to give everybody that I'm friends with a list of or whatever, and I'm like, dude, I could give you a list of people I'm not. Is this easier? There's a handful of them that I avoid. Everybody else I pretty much get along with. So that misconception, they've tried to make this look like, because I put a meme on my Facebook, and it's like if people can't control you, then they want to control how people view you, and that's the truth. So they want to make it out like, oh, he's fighting with all these people, the whole community's fighting. Yeah, I'm fighting everybody. That's why when I call somebody up and say, hey, you want to be on the show? They're like, oh, no, I could never consort with you. Let me not talk to Josh Turner. That's not happening. So they can shut the heck up. I mean, they can keep spinning the narrative as the cryptid world turns and paranormal world turns, whatever. It's not real. It's fake. Okay. And the truth is, they're the ones that are on the outside looking in, not me. It ain't hurting me. I mean, my numbers are still going up. I mean, we're here at 12:52 a.m. and we still got 374 people. I mean, what are they doing? Let them make a live and see what they do. I know Abe's doing good. People, the next day I look and Abe's got 1,000 people that have watched it. I mean,
yeah.
If they're so powerful and they're so important in the community and they got so much going on and there's such a coalition of the willing, where is it?
Yeah, they've been popping on my. They will pop on my. But I'm doing my lives on YouTube with fake names, and I know it's them.
Oh, I saw it.
I just ignore them and I just block them.
Guy, I saw that.
Yeah.
He got bounced though. I mean, and you know who that was.
Yeah.
Purple Mouth. What's his name? Oyster Mouth.
Yeah, it's just
man. I keep telling them we need
to. They give themselves away, man. Like the names that they put are the fake profiles. Like there was one that said something Fisher.
Yeah.
That had the name Fisher on there, and he said he had left a message and said it's not over yet or something like that. Like a threat. It's like, oh, here we go.
Because they're going to do this big reveal. There's this big show that's going to come out, and everybody in the community is going to hate Josh Turner because I don't shut up.
So they give themselves away with the names that they put on there. You know who they are, and they say the same things over and over. So it's like I just block them, when I'm doing my live.
So Maddie had a question for you, Monica. She said, "What's the name of your channel again?"
So the name of the show is Our Paranormal World, and I'm on Texas channel. So Texas Front Porch is where I am. Yeah.
Look at the two shadows. Look what you said. Yeah, you got the roach and the voodoo. That's I'm sorry, man. I just don't respect them at all. Like people they're always over there like, hey, we're mad. Blah, 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 blah. I don't care if you're mad. Dude, don't care.
Yeah, no, old boy popped up with how you said he had the name Bree, and he said Bree something and then Bree. So I knew who that was, and I was like, hey man, how's your son doing? I know he's good with his mom.
Because it was him. It's funny because when we were on Blondes and Booze last night, and Chris was on there, Garetano, and when he was on with Bettina, was when little Bray got on there and said all the little racist things, and Chris was like, whoa, what the hell? So the next day he calls me up and he goes, dude, I didn't think he was like that. I said, yeah, told you, man. They're cockroaches, man. And so Brandy and Krista were like, yeah, last time you were on, we saw you on Bettina's or whatever, and he was like, yeah, that was pretty interesting. I mean, they think that they're really doing something, and really, I'm going to give you all a message. You're just looking like clowns to the whole community. The whole community is seeing you for what you are. You are not exposing anything but yourself. And I encourage you just to keep imploding, because that's all you're doing. Everything you do and say is being handed over to lawyers, and that's it. I mean, at this point, I mean, if you keep it up, you're going to end up with nothing. If you stop now, you might be able to just get just hit the cease and desist. But
and you know what, Brother Josh? These guys have been playing this game for a very long time. I think they were affiliated a long time ago, and they've been playing this game, and now it's over because they reveal themselves, and we know what they're about. We know who they're affiliated with. So it's like I'm not even worried about them no more. They just show the true colors because they couldn't get what they wanted. What they wanted was to bring PRT down, and they couldn't do it. So it's like, anything they try to do now is nobody's paying attention to them no more.
Yeah, and everything they say is just a big joke because eventually, you cry wolf enough times, and it just nobody cares anymore, and it doesn't matter. And that's why it's like, it's just unfortunate, like that people have to like go and get lawyers to get these people to chill out because they just don't want to do it. And like I said, at the end of the day, what is it hurting? They're not hurting us. They're not hurting my numbers. They're not doing anything. You can mass report me all you want. It's just going to run its course, and then we'll be right back on where we're at. But good is good, bad is bad. And we do good work. You guys all do good work. Everybody's happy. Everybody's doing what they're doing. We got friends in the community, and that's all that matters. We're going to build the community the way it's supposed to be built. And I think that everybody is seeing that, and we're going to keep pushing out this information. And when I get that move to Rumble next month, on Saturdays, you're going to see a lot of things. I'm going to be saying a lot of things, and maybe I don't know, maybe people are ready, maybe they're not, but here I come. So anyways, folks, Zokul Cuddle Kodal says, are we still wasting breath on haters here? Yes, I'm out of breath. I'm hating and talking about my haters. Oh my gosh. Shut up. All right, guys. I'll see you. Good night.
Peace up.
Peace. Nobody's wasting breath on haters. We're just talking about it because they've been going after and messing with people that I care about. And one of them is Madeline Chapp. And she is not just a friend, she's like family to us, and we don't like the way that they have been smearing her and Anthony's name all over the place. Like I said before, you can say what you want about me. People say stuff about me all the damn time. I don't give a damn. I'll give you more to talk about. How about that? Okay? I'll be at your mama's house and we can talk about it. I don't give a damn. You ain't hurting me. But I'm like she said right now, literally harassing us. That's why the breath is being used. Okay. I didn't like the snarky way you came into my chat, but I'm not going to kick you out. Okay. Everybody just be happy, be fine, whatever. But I get what you're saying, don't waste breath, but I'm going to defend people that I care about. But the thing is, they're all a big joke, and it's all a big joke to me. If they want me to not say something back or not do it, whatever, then sue me. Go get your little money and put your little money where your little mouth is, where your big mouth is. Get you a lawyer and sue me. Do what you got to do, and then I'll depose the shit out of you and watch what happens. Okay? Because these people want to keep acting a fool. I don't give a crap. Let them say what they want, but I'm not going to let you bully people I care about. Simple as that. But I'm not going to say your names. I'm not going to say your names, not because I'm afraid of you, because I know that's what you want. You're like a fish that flopped out of the aquarium, and you're like, you want me to say, you want me to breathe oxygen into you, I'm not going to give it to you. Because without me, you're irrelevant. And what are you going to do if you did do something to me? Huh? Then what do you got? You're nobody. You're nobodies to begin with, and you'll be nobodies. It's the truth. It's just the truth. But on the other hand, we have a lot of great things going. Paratroopers, we have a song that we're creating. It's an anthem that my wife is putting a lot of effort into. And she wants it to be good. And so, we are rolling. We are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're putting out content. We'll be on again tomorrow night to the chagrin of them. And everybody else that loves us will be happy because we'll be on again Sunday, and we're going to tell it like it's hot. Keep it, what is it? Drop it like it's hot. Keep telling it. And then I'll be back. Get this. I'm going to be on Monday, early Monday, and probably again on Tuesday evening. Probably. I'll be on Tuesday evening, but I'll be on early. I'm going to do an early show on Monday because we're trying to gauge. This is one of Anthony's ideas. Like I said before, I don't bully him. He's the bully. You don't know. He bullies the shit out of me. Okay. I'm sick of this guy. He's like, oh, there he is. Never mind. Be quiet. Okay. Like I said, he bullies the shit out of me. Oh, this guy. I ain't scared of this dude, though. I just don't like the way he. What's up? Okay. Like I said, I ain't even worried about that. I'm just playing. I'm messing with y'all, man. You're like, I said, what was that? I said it. I told her. I was like, anyways, jokes, folks. I'm messing around, playing around. You know how it goes, man. They talk, whispering and whatever, But Anthony he's not a bully, and I'm not a bully. We try to keep it together. But Anthony gets real upset if we don't do things a certain way. He's like one of those kind of people that likes things to be a certain way. And me and Tony were just kind of loose, And Anthony's like, y'all need to focus, blah blah blah. Timing for jokes, yeah, but not all the time, and it's got to be a certain balance. But I'll tell you this: without him cracking the whip on us, we would have gotten way off course a long time ago. You know how I do, man. I get off, whatever, because I'm real. I'm just loose. I do what I do, and I say what I say. I never get up here and go, folks, welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm going to read an email from a story. A man was chased by something. It was gray. Could have been a gargoyle. That's not going to happen, dude. I don't do that shit. It's not who I am. It's not who I am. That will never be me. I'm not that guy. I'm a real person. These other people with the fake bullshit, that's what they do. They can't retell a story to save their life, so they got to make up one on the artificial intelligence, AI. That's what they do. And then they pay people to be their audience or whatever the shit. Can you imagine that? It's like talking to yourself like a crazy person in the mirror or some shit. It's unbelievable. But anyways, folks, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Go to my colleagues' channels. Go check it out. Fridays, we changed the format because we have fun. We just want to have fun. I picked 3 people who I thought would be fun with good chemistry, and we'd have a good time. We could tell stories and just be real, talk about real shit, man, real stuff. Excuse the language, but it's just who I am. I have a potty mouth at times. I try not to be. I try not to, but sometimes that's who I am. But I love everybody. I love everybody, even my enemies. I heard one of them the other day somebody said that he has pneumonia. So pray for him. I don't want him to die. I mean, he may want me to die, but I don't wish that for them. I don't care what kind of bad things he said about me. I'm not going to wish that on somebody because that's not me. Because you can't have Christ in your heart if you're wishing people to die or bad things on them. You don't do that. Don't do that. So anyway, yes, thank you, Madeline, for posting that. And everybody that's donated and joined the chat tonight, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please be here tomorrow and be ready for us to be on all through the next few days because we're not going anywhere except for up. All right, guys, I'll see you. Good night.